We made it.
Woo, 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 woo.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode number 13. I mean, we're calling it 13, but in reality, it's probably 12 because the other one was more of like a bonus episode on Saturdays. So we tried to do a little trial run on this, how it's gonna work out, and we did it on a fly where we kind of set everything up in 20 minutes and then up and running. So, Eddie, can you go mute on a TV? Oh, it's okay. So yeah, so Saturdays now I think we're gonna try probably get another episode going for you guys. And this Sunday, we have a surprise for you.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I want to tell you what's gonna be, but we have a surprise for you. So stay tuned. It's gonna be earlier in the day. Right around look for about 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that. 10 to 10:30 in the morning. So we're gonna have a quick run at it for you guys. Should be fun. But anyway, we got new guests. Let's introduce our guest. His name is Felix Mau de Vaca Rojas. Basically, what Mau de Vaca means, it means a cow's foot or cow's hoof.
Yep.
And I'm gonna let him explain why.
Well, first of all, like, thank you very much. I gotta say I'm a true fan, and I'm a follower. You know, I love your podcast. I've been with you guys since the very first day. I think you have a very good concept here.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
Of course. And I before I got here, I told Jay, like, Jay, I'm gonna be very transparent. You know, every superhero movie needs a villain, so you're doing a great job with it. Which is actually great.
A great job at that.
But yeah, I mean,
Too good of a job sometimes. Too good of a job.
Well, yeah, I got that nickname, if you want to call it like a nickname. You know, it's kind of a certain move that to me, I see it as a low hanging fruit whenever I'm training. You know, because I see people, you know, with their hands like, you know, like this.
Well, you know what? I think before we go into that, tell us what you train first, and then we go into that.
Okay, so like pretty much I've been doing jiu-jitsu overall for since 1999. I started, you know, training Japanese jiu-jitsu.
24 years, guys. For
which is
those that wanna do math
it
quickly.
was a style which I started in the Dominican Republic. Actually, it was called the Miyama Ryu. It's called the School of the Three Mountains. It's very simple. Actually, the creator of the style, it was a Puerto Rican guy. You know, he was in the army here in the U.S. And basically, you know, he was a sniper in the you know, World War II. So he went to Japan, and in his you know, time off, he started, you know, doing martial arts there. Obviously, you're in Japan. You're in the, you know, spotlight of all martial arts. So his first passion was actually learning how to do judo. So he started doing judo, and obviously you have like a lot of like spare time like back then. So eventually he started training, you know, 16 hours a day. 16, yes, it's 16 hours a day. And you know, training judo, which is all my judoka friends, they know it's not easy. But this guy made it to black belt in judo in the Kodokan in Japan in 6 months. So obviously, it was a great accomplishment. And while being in Japan, he also, you know, had interest in other martial arts such as Aikido, which he started training with Morihei Ueshiba, which is the founder of Aikido. And he was awarded his black belt from Kishomaru Ueshiba, which is the son of Morihei Ueshiba. And he became a black belt in Aikido as well. So, long story short, World War II ended. You know, the guy went back to New York. He was living in New York. And obviously, New York, you know where? The Bronx, you know, back in the 60s, like, you know, it was not like a pleasant scenario right there. So obviously he wanted to, you know, be able to teach like a certain form of combat over there. And he first started, you know, showing Aikido, but he learned that he knew at that point that Aikido was not going to be like feasible for the Bronx. So, to my opinion, and probably it's a little bit controversial, like for a lot of people, like to my opinion, the first form in what it's called like MMA, at least to myself, was actually what he did with Miyama Ryu Jiu Jitsu, which is the Japanese style of Jiu Jitsu that I did. Um, because he combined judo, he combined aikido, he combined combat like arts from the military, you know, and then he brought it to the Bronx, New York, back in the days when there were like people using like clubs and chains and knives, and it was pretty rough. So I started training the like Miyama Ryu in DR actually started in 1975. Um, and but I started training in 1999. I mean, I was my house was not easy. I had very rough like childhood with my parents, especially my dad was a little bit violent, if you want to call it that way. So obviously, like my brother and I, very respectful. I mean, we didn't have any type of fear like for anybody, no one except for our dad, because that was the one person that we could not raise our hand to do something about it. So all that anger, all those emotions, everything, we put it into this form of martial art that we found it, and made it our home. It was our family at that point, and so that's how I started jiu-jitsu per se. That was in 1999. I was really hooked to the style, the martial art, the idea, everything. I loved it, and I mean, I was one of the I became a black belt in that martial art in like 2.5 years, which is one of the fastest at that point. All I needed was people always were joking about like me having a bed there, because that's all I like. There was like left out, I was there all the time, every hour. I made it myself my lifestyle. So long story short, I became currently have a kaiden. That's the rank in that style, which is like 8-9 degree black belt for you guys to understand. And while doing this Japanese jiu-jitsu, I really, again, I told you that the first form of mixed martial art that I learned, this is that third world country at the very end. So MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, none of that started, not at like, probably 2000, by the hands of Abraham Tabar and Giancarlos Valdez in Dominican Republic. They pretty much started everything there, like the move. That was this dream. There was Royce Gracie. They saw it. They wanted something, that could be relatable. They started, confronting every single martial art the same way. Like, oh yeah, like what is it that you do? Karate? Oh, that sucks. What is it? Aikido? That's a shit. What is it? So they started confronting every single martial art, and they got pretty noticeable about like doing that. And so yeah, like obviously, I felt a lot for the style that I was like practicing, and we didn't want it to be confrontational because at the end of the day, it was merely purely self defense. Like the goal for Miyama Ryu is not to hang a medal on your wall. It was to preserve life. So like eventually, again, this is the first form of martial art, MMA system. So the one thing that I knew that was missing out of the puzzle was actually doing some groundwork. So this is when I started, to mix in a little bit of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which that was like, thanks to Giancarlos Valdez, which is a high legit black belt in Dominican Republic, and one of the founders as well. So he invited a couple of like friend of mine on that, and so we started like doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu to complement that. And long story short, 10.5 years later, I'm here in the U.S. I'm training under Checkbat and Professor Juan Repping, and I just got my Brazilian black belt, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, like a week ago. So I made a long story very short. I think like 5 minutes. So I hope you like the introduction, my good friend Jay.
Yeah, I love it. So
Congratulations. Well, you
you.
certified in
Yeah,
a lot of
congrats.
things. Certified killers.
Now
What it sounds
show
like.
them what's a Mao de Vaca. So now that they know the entire story behind the jiu-jitsu and how you started, now what's the Mao de Vaca?
Okay, so again, the in Aikido and like modern traditional jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of like flexions to the wrist and stuff like that. So as you can see, I'm very flexible from from my wrist. So I noticed that a lot of people they're just not, So every time I just hold a person like Jay, and just hold him like this, and just like, he's gonna be screaming like a goat, like ah. So
Wow, yours
I
can
love
fold
it.
like a lawn chair, huh? Yours just comes in on itself.
What was that?
Yeah, yours just folds like a lawn chair, huh?
Goddamn. Obviously it's a matter of like all the years like doing the same thing. I was able to do that, and I found like a loophole, in my game. So nobody like plays
Use your
that game,
advantage, yeah.
and obviously I excel in that one. So
You just when they try to go, you just give them the wrist, huh?
what can I say?
Arthur says I'll be always the first person that gives you
Yeah.
the black belt.
Arthur, we got a pending conversation, man. So yeah, my boy Arthur, he made a comment. Again, you training jiu-jitsu, specifically Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It takes a long while, like for you to get your black belt, and it all depends on mat hours, to be honest. Like we've seen people made it in like 3.5 years, which is out of the ordinary. But it usually takes you, like 8, 10, 12 years to make it to black belt. And again, it took me a little bit over 10 years for that. But in the case of Arthur, he knew I was like a brown belt with 4-stripe brown belt, like for a long while. And we had his little, how do you call it? The Christmas Santa, right?
So, yeah. We did a Secret
Santa, yeah.
Secret Santa exchange, and one of the gifts was a gag gift.
Yeah, and he gave me like a black ribbon, saying like, oh yeah, like finally you're a black belt, So I gotta take it. I gotta like put it to you, Arthur. Like you motivated me to keep on, like my journey, and finally achieve my long term goal. So, but yes, you were the first one to put a BJJ black belt on my.
So how does the
Explain to everyone, how are you made out of rubber?
Well, again, it's every time you go, it's like when you do yoga. Every time you go to and trying to do a little bit of yoga, I mean, you're not the most flexible person like from day one. It's a matter of practicing and overtraining and continuous. I'm stretching. So that's been my thing like my entire life. Like people like, oh, you're not normal. Like, yes, I am normal. It's just a matter of like like I've been doing this for such
that
a
rubber band has been stretching out for 10 years, so
it's a little
it goes
bit,
a little
it's
more than
bit-
everybody else.
It's a little bit
is.
freaky because people put me on certain type of like submissions and they're like, oh, it's gonna break, and it was and I'm like,
So
what can I say?
what happens is people will go in and start rolling with Felix, and what he'll do, he'll dangle his arm there like this, and higher belts, they know that you can do these, and he's a higher belt, so they're like, oh, okay, easy tap, I'm just gonna get him. So what they do, they grab his arm and then go like this, and then he's out there with the biggest grin on his face, like, didn't work, huh? So yeah, so he'll kind of like those fish that like dangle their tails, or what's that fish that's like deep down in a water, has a little light thingy?
Anglerfish.
Anglerfish, yeah. So he dangles that thing in front, to get them
Yeah.
trapped. So that's what,
What
he
he
does.
So you said you just got your black belt, right? You have to go through a test for that?
Well,
Or is it
every
just a
system,
recognized?
we are under the Checkmat affiliation, and like every professor is different, and they every professor has its own way of teaching, of like the promotion system. Generally, again, if you've been training consistently for the past, let's say from like white to blue, you take like a year at a minimum. Like if your professor considers to promote you at that point, I mean, there's nothing to prove, you know. So you don't need a test for that, you know. If he it's actually promoting you, is because he knows that you have the necessary requirements for you to be on the upper belt, you know. And again, it's not just a physical requirement. It's not like, you know, it's also mentally, but also as well, you know, it's on a technique level. You need to be really up there, you know.
Got you. So you've had it in both cases where they feel like you're ready to be promoted and they promote you, or you've had to take tests as well.
Um, uh, Fortunately, I haven't been able I haven't taken any tests for that.
Okay.
You know, I was promoted from white belt to blue belt in a little bit less than a year. It's a funny story because, you know, I went with a couple of friends of mine. Nelson Pimentel and Angel Campos. We went to. Um, they were secretly training BJJ. You know, we all did traditional jiu-jitsu in the Miyama Ryu side. You know, but they were secretly training, you know, BJJ. And we're training BJJ and we're going to a tournament in Miami. You know, so again, we were living in the R. So like the only form of like international, like competition, you know, was actually going to Miami. That was like the easiest jump, you know, from the R. So a 2 hour like flight. So uh we're going to Miami to this tournament, and there was like a group of like 5 of us, 6 of us. So like, yeah, let's go there, like let's support you, whatever, you know. And and we all saw the competition from the outside. I was hooked when I saw that competition, you know. And I came back and I like immediately, you know, I was like, where do I need to sign? I'm hopping on. I'm jumping into the sport. I love it. And I promised the professor at that point, I was like, listen, I'm gonna be here in this tournament next year, and I am going to win a medal. Like, you know, unfortunately, I got a silver medal on that competition. You know, which unfortunately, you know, it's
You say unfortunately,
it's a good accomplishment. It's
Yeah.
my first tournament ever, like at that point, big one. But I got the results were good. So obviously, when I won, it was like, oh, I want more. I want more. So no. So that's when you start like getting the you know, like the urge of like, yeah, I do want to train. I do want to prove myself. I do want to continue to do this. And that's how it all started, you know. And actually, you know, like throughout the years, when I started BJJ. I don't know if I told you this, Jay, but I was weighing 194 pounds. So when I got into the sport, and actually that's you know, like I'm like 189 now, you know. But again, when I started, it was I was like, okay, I'm gonna compete here next year. And I asked one of my friends, he was a purple belt at that point, like, what do you recommend me, like, you know, like to do? I was like, listen, I don't see any type of like, you know, big muscles on you, so I really encourage you to go to the lightweight division. Lightweight division was 168 pounds with the gi on. So I was weighing 194 pounds, right? So I had to drop like more than 30 pounds just to go for that tournament, and winning a silver medal, like for me, was a huge accomplishment, you know? Not only because of like health issues, but I knew at that point that I needed the extra cardio. So I used to be a heavy smoker when it comes to cigarettes and stuff. I'd even, like, you know, 3 4 months after, before I went to the tournament, I cut all the you know, alcohol and everything. I was really, really, really into the you know, into the game, into the sport, and I really loved every step of it, you know.
So I got two questions for you. Will you be doing any tournaments in the future? And if yes or no, and then is there an ideal age to start a BJJ or martial arts in general?
Well, as far as tournaments, I'm not close to those, you know. Tournaments are a good part of you, like, you know, showing and demonstrating, or at least, you know, getting a measure on where you're at, you know. I tell a lot of people, and this is where like people get really, you know, I don't know how to put this, but they have different concept when it comes to like BJJ. Like, listen, you can come here and you can make this like part of your routine, exercise as a lifestyle. Because we have like people like 60-year-old, 70-year-old people like actually training BJJ. Do you think those people they want to be world champs? Huh? They don't want to be world champion. They're just there like for the exercise. So again, obviously BJJ is a huge part of my lifestyle and everything. But I do have a family. I do have my professional side as well. So that's one of the things that I always like kind of watching out. I don't want to be like get to my job with a a bruised eye, like black eye, like a black eye or something. That's because I see clients on a daily basis. But again, like definitely if you want to compete, it's really up to you. I really encourage people, the people that have the pleasure of like teaching something. Go ahead and go into a championship, a tournament, something, just for you to understand and know like where you're at. That's all you need. And when it comes to what specific age, there are no ages. Usually, the sooner the better. The sooner. Why? Because I mean, and it's really goes against me. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. My 9-year-old like started training a while ago. I haven't been consistent, because I don't have the time like to take him to the kids class that often. But you see like all these like monster kids like right now, like internationally legends in the sport, such as the Rutuolo brothers, which they started like at a very young age. And you see like Cole Abate, the same thing, like starting at a very like early age on their sports. And you see them now. These people are monsters, like literally, killing everybody. And that's how the way you do it. I mean, if you start early in your life, obviously you're gonna become, a true, monster like in the sport. So I really encourage people like the sooner the better. There are no ages though, but whatever works for you, it's good.
I was funny. I remember when you were there when we were at Vitality, and Brian told Ozzy about the Imanari roll. He's like, I don't know what that is. He jumps, falls on the floor, and does it. I remember seeing the other day when Imanari was going against, I can't say his last name, but
Musumeci.
And
Mikey Musumeci.
And he first thing he does, he drops to the floor. He's like, I'm not letting that guy roll on me. He drops to the floor. He's like, I'm pulling guard. Fuck that.
Well, Musumeci is a different kind of competitor. You know what I mean? I think I've never really seen him playing in a stand-up game. He's more.
I haven't seen him compete. I only saw that one match.
Like, listen, you need to understand. Like,
isn't he champion now in his league?
Yeah.
You need to understand like what's your game, and jiu-jitsu. It's like it's very well versed as it. Like, for people that don't understand like sport, when the actual founders of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it was the Gracie family back in Brazil, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually came out of judo. You have this judoka, flying from Japan to Brazil, stayed there and actually, started teaching judo, But this form of like, the Gracie family, Carlos Gracie, Helio Gracie, they started, tweaking a little bit what they already knew and trying to apply it to the modern world, combat world, So that's how they started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's the way it started. It started in Brazil, and obviously you need to get notarized. Like, how do you say that? Like, for people to understand how does the sports work, and for them to get like world renowned, like results and fame. They started doing the same thing. They started, like, okay, like, what is it that you do? This is judo. Okay, come and fight with me. Karate, Aikido, Muay Thai. So they started, like winning everybody. In fact, actually, UFC started. That was like part of the Gracie family, for them to show their supremacy of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu against everybody. So nothing against like Royce Gracie back at the point, because when UFC started, there was no MMA. You know, it was a specific style of martial art versus the other.
Yeah.
It was karate versus aikido. It was the jiu-jitsu versus and
No weight, no nothing. It was just bring
no
these
weight,
guys.
no weight,
have
no
'em go.
rules, no
No
anything,
time.
no gloves. You know,
No gloves.
so
They used to have to make. They would make them wear wrestling shoes.
no, not really.
Yeah, at a certain point they did.
I mean, they've
No,
been
no time limits, nothing. So
Yeah.
basically,
when it
you could've
started. You
punched
see,
everywhere.
like you know, and even today we know it's a complete disadvantage of you wearing a gi, like on a MMA fight. And actually, Royce Gracie did it. You know, he was wearing his gi, and he like pretty much demonstrated that the martial art was way superior than everything else. So obviously, all these MMA fighters, this is MMA is the fastest like growing sport right now, like in the world, right? Because everybody knows now it's not against it's not judo against jiu-jitsu. It's not like no. It's like if you really want to be a well-rounded fighter, you need to have a little bit of everything. So you are gonna be the one that knows like what actually is the martial art that would complement your game. But I can assure you, 97% of like every MMA fighter needs to know jiu-jitsu because they
What
need to
about the
know the
guys-
ground fight.
What about all the Sambo guys coming through the UFC now, mopping all the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys?
Well, that's part of what I said. It was that 97%.
Yeah,
you know?
that 3% is
But again,
Sambo.
But again, regardless if even though they call it Sambo, it's ground fighting and
Yeah, it's
and
grappling.
a little bit of everything. So it's like a combination between wrestling and BJJ.
So I can talk a bit about Sambo. So the way Sambo was designed in Russia, so the reason I
But
say
they
that
also
is because,
strike in Sambo, don't they?
yeah, because I trained. So they have two types of Sambo. There's combat Sambo and there's sports Sambo. In sports Sambo, it kind of looks like judo, but there's a lot more groundwork, kind of like jiu-jitsu. So it's a middle ground between judo and jiu-jitsu. And then you have the combat Sambo, which has the striking, kicks, punches, headbutts, and things like that, including the ground and pound, so on and so forth. Now, if you take Sambo, jiu-jitsu it's basically groundwork, right? But Sambo also looks at throws and things like that. In jiu-jitsu, they emphasize the importance of throws, things like that. However, a lot of it is happening on the ground.
Yeah.
Where in Sambo, there's half of it is happening standing
It's
up,
both.
half of it is happening on the ground. So so what happening with those guys? In my opinion, I think this is what happens with those guys. Those guys, like for example, let's take Khabib, right? He's coming from a mountainous region. Not necessarily the economy there is good, per se, to make some sort of money. So you kind of have to go into sports or whatever it is that you're doing there. But these guys, this is what they do. They train, they pray, they go to home sleep, and they do it all over again every
And
day.
repeat.
And repeat since they are like 6 years old. This is all they do. They all live in the mountainous areas. They all walk everywhere. To have a car in that area is very, uncommon.
Yeah, but I don't think you can assign necessarily the work ethic to basically like how we saw Oliveira get. He's always, every time he gets hit and he drops, he's fine to drop because he's like to anybody, he's like, come to the floor. Come. But when he did that to Islam, what did he do? He grabbed him and he squeezed him, and it was like 10 seconds on the floor.
Yeah.
And you can't say that about Charles. That he hasn't dedicated his whole life. He has.
But it's what you were saying. You mentioned Mikey Musumeci, and Mikey, again, this guy. You've seen Mikey Musumeci, like I think this guy weighs like 120 pounds.
Yeah, he's like
wet,
138.
wet,
something like that,
yeah,
right?
he fights at 125 to about 130.
That's what I mean. Like probably walking around 130s.
So I mean, you can't be, you can't be playing like all these crazy judo guys with throws. He doesn't have the ability. He has the ability, but first of all, it's not his game, and he's more comfortable on the ground. He's more like a player on the Berimbolo game, which is a game like they do on jiu-jitsu. Part of the physics on trying to get like people's back and stuff like that. So he's been tweaking here, like in there, a couple of moves, and he's been working perfectly with him. Like, Iminari, Iminari's a legit black belt, quite a legend, like in the sport as well.
I mean, for people that
Pride
aren't even
fighter, huh?
big into, for people like me that I'm not even big into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I know who that is because I know his role. I mean, like, you can give a lot of credit to Tony Ferguson for making that famous, for sure.
So you see people like like
It's
Iminari,
named after him.
Iminari, a legend on the sport, and again, whenever you see Mikey Musumeci like fighting, like Iminari, it went like all the odds were on one side. Everybody knew that Mikey Musumeci had everything, the necessary skills like to beat this guy, like no questions asked. Mikey Musumeci, obviously, the leg work was not his game, but he has implemented that very well into like his game now. So he even got like the extra mile and has his own like finishing moves when it comes to leg locks and stuff. So he's like evolving the game, like putting like his own touch for everything.
So I have a question for you, though it's actually one of the viewers asked us. I hear that people that train martial arts make it their way of life. Do you agree? Can you comment or explain more?
Well, I can't be I can't be more happier for like out of that question. Obviously, yes, martial arts, it's a form of way. It molds, and again, not every martial art is the same, So I'm more like on the old-fashioned traditional way, on which every time the sensei came in, I mean, like the entire class has to stop whatever they're doing and salute to the professor, pretty much bow at your higher belt. Because again, I've been doing 10 years, like like on BJJ. I've been since 1999 on traditional like jiu-jitsu. So the last thing I want is actually got like a white belt, not recognizing the effort that I made for the sports, for the system, like through all these years. All right. But it goes both ways, So you can easily tell a person that's really committed to martial arts on his, like, on how his personality is, as far as respect goes, as far as humbleness, as far as courtesy, as far as honor, as far as like a lot of different aspects of life that you can actually mold and you actually go through. And in Japanese jiu-jitsu, they call it the bushido, which is the way of the warrior. That's the actual definition. Do means way, bushi means warrior, so it's way of the warrior. So everybody, if you stick to the that traditional aspect, you're gonna succeed on where you're at, because you need to be humble to accept like any type of like challenge or situation that you may like face or encounter on a daily basis, and obviously use it to encourage you to perfect your personality.
Hey guys, there are a couple of us. If you please hit the like button, please hit the like button. That would help us a lot. But besides that, I have one more question. So right now, we have a couple of viewers, but we only have 9 likes. So by hitting the like button actually helps the YouTube algorithm push this content to everyone. The more this goes viral, the more people are going to know about us, and the more we can bring some of this stuff to you. So question is, Islam versus Volk, who you got? And then, did you guys hear about McShitter? I don't know who
They're talking about McGregor,
Oh.
probably.
All right. Yeah, so Islam versus Volk and McGregor coming back. What do you think?
Well, if you ask me about McGregor,
You heard who he's fighting?
what was that?
He's got his fight light up. His fight.
Yeah, I know, I heard of it, but like the thing is that, we've had like a million conversations about not even McGregor. It's like any other true legend. You saw Federer recently, Federer Emelianenko, a legend in the sport as well.
Fedor?
Mm-hmm.
He retired officially the other day, right?
Yeah, because this guy Bader,
he should have retired.
Ryan Bader defeated him. But again, these are people that made a career here, legends.
first double champ for the UFC. You're talking about Mike McGregor
and then like you end up your career getting knocked out and stuff like that. It's not the I mean, we gotta take it. McGregor took UFC and the MMA sports as a whole to a way different level.
Absolutely.
MMA, like McGregor in MMA, it's like Gordon Ryan and BJJ. Has taken the sport to another level. Like McGregor was actually the first fighter to actually win more than $1 million, like in a fight. Because let's face it, like UFC, like when you compare it to boxing, like UFC, fighters they don't make much money.
No, absolutely not.
So it's like one hell of a training commitment. What for? Like obviously you make money, but not at the like level like all those boxing guys.
I saw one guy. They didn't specify the fighter, but
didn't Francis pretty much say if you don't, if
well,
he doesn't,
Francis,
he's not gonna sign until they.
Francis gave from what I heard they gave Francis the deal and they gave him the amount of money he wanted, but there were some other things they didn't include that he said if without those I'm not fighting. But they gave him whatever the money he wanted.
Oh, he
wanted. Yeah, they told him we'll give you that money, but he wanted some extra stuff. I think it was had to do something with medical or insurance and stuff. Like there were some other factors that they didn't include that he wanted, but it wasn't just the money.
Yeah, because it's now I don't know about this.
Well,
but I know,
gave him the money.
Yeah, Strike Force and whatever those.
I think it's PFL that's gonna sign him, right?
I don't know, but I know Strike Force they have like a 48-hour. Like if something happens to you in a ring, they got you covered for 48 hours. But then after that,
we talked to Jason about that.
Yeah, and that's what Jason was saying. And after that, you kind of have to kind of cover everything on your own. So think about it, like they get their eye socket broken, like that happened to that guy. Remember that he got his skull caved in.
Yeah.
Because of the knee. 48 hours is not gonna help.
Yeah.
That's a whole reconstructive surgery.
What do you guys think of with McGregor versus Chandler?
So the same thing, it comes to a point of every fighter, if you're in your glory days, the last 3-4 like fights of McGregor haven't been he hasn't had the greatest results like whatsoever.
I mean if you put it the last 3 fights, he put Cerrone out in like 12 seconds. What was it? The first 20 seconds.
That was
yeah, because he did Cerrone and then he fought Dustin twice.
Okay, so like anyways, like. I'm not gonna say that was like kind of like
This is fluke. Say it the way it is.
Yeah, it was like quite a phony
Not
fight.
to take away from Dustin. You know what I mean? Dustin is a great fighter.
But again, like
well, the first fight he knocked him. He just knocked him out. So
listen, like 2 things. Like first of all, McGregor was fighting in a much different like weight division. The guy has gained a lot of like muscles and weight. You can see.
He's still gonna fight 155 though.
You can see his body context at this point, but I mean, like sure, like go ahead and fight. You gotta make a lot of money. You gotta make more money than your opponent. But at this point, it's like listen, like if it was me, I would just be an ambassador for the sport. Keep on doing whatever you're doing. Make money with the whiskey, and.
But what I'm asking, who would you have? Like, who do you have for the fight? Who do you think will win?
Listen, Chandler. His second fight in UFC career, he got a first place fight. Chandler is loud, just like McGregor. He talks a lot. So what they did, they pushed him out because that was gonna bring the numbers. He's past his 30. You know what I mean? So, but he talks a lot. So, is Chandler a good fighter? Yes, 100%. Is he in top 5 to 10? 100%. However, is he McGregor level fighter where McGregor has been dominating for years? Maybe. I think Chandler is more talk. I think what they're doing is they're going to bring in 2 shit talkers together to spice this fight up. In reality, people are going to go watch it because of the shit talking, not because of not because it's going to be a number 1 fight, number 2 fight. So I think McGregor might get this, especially just like you said, he's been working out. He's been putting on a lot of weight, which means his punches and kicks are going to be harder. However, that might make him slower a little bit, which Chandler is a great grappler. So he's...
he's a wrestler originally.
In my opinion, McGregor's gonna have to keep him at the fist's length, or at least at the kick's length. You know what I mean, and not go to the ground, because we saw what happened when Khabib took him to the ground. You know, so I think that's what's eventually is gonna have to happen. This fight is probably gonna be on feet. Chandler's
so.
gonna probably go shoot, and if he gets the shot, he's probably gonna take McGregor down. And if he takes him down, now that's gonna be Chandler's world.
I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna go for the. He'll probably shoot, but I think McGregor's takedown defense is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, McGregor's game is the striking game. The guy is it's a heavy puncher. He has
That
like
left hand, if it's like a piston, bro.
So we again, like I'm with Jay. We've seen all these last fights. Every time he goes,
if I had to pick, I'd pick McGregor.
Like every time he goes to the ground, that's not his game. He knows it. Like
I kind of see like a
Nate Diaz. Like pretty much make fun of him. Like on the groundwork. So
yeah.
Just keep it there.
Alex, but McGregor is gonna have a big issue going back into the USADA.
For sure.
With those pharmaceuticals, what you can say.
Well, he's already lined up to fight, so he's gonna be the coach, tough coach.
I got a big shout out for one of my friends and compadre, Jose Rafael Miranda. Rafa, thank you for everything you did for me. One of my mentors in jiu-jitsu as well. So thank you, bro.
And then you asked as well.
Yeah. So who you got, Volkanovski or?
So this is the way I look at it, right? Because we were just talking about Islam. I like how Joe Rogan put it. The way Islam and Khabib and these guys fight when it comes to weight, it's kind of like sanctioned cheating in a sense. Because these guys really weigh like 190. These guys are big. Yeah. Islam, Khabib, these guys they're really fucking big.
They have
they cut a shit ton of weight.
They have a legit, weight cuts system.
Yeah, but no, and then they get in there and they have a legit weight advantage.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Volk that is actually coming up in weight. He fights 145, right? He's a featherweight 145 champion. He's going up to 155. It's gonna be a hard fight for him.
Yeah, but then Volkanovski, don't forget, Volkanovski used to play rugby.
Yeah, Volkanovski used to be a big dude.
Volkanovski in 200 pounds.
Yeah, Volkanovski used to be 200 pounds.
Yeah. So
rugby,
Volkanovski.
He's used to putting on a lot of weight.
Not only that, he's used to carrying that. Not only carrying that, he's used to playing in a rugby, which is probably one of the most violent team sports out there. Yeah. Because there is no padding. There's none of that. It's just a bunch of dudes just body slamming each other. I love seeing the video
of the rugby players pushing the F1 car. You seen that?
Yeah.
Pushing each other.
Yeah, so Volkanovski's used to that, and I don't think he's gonna have too much of a hard time. Because you got to think of it, he's like a dwarf. He's very compact.
I'm just looking at what they used to fighting. For example, like you see Volkanovski, he's used to fighting guys like Holloway, Ortega. Those guys, they're 145ers, So to fight a guy that's 155, he's moving up in weight, and he's one of the biggest 155ers in the division. Yeah. That's going to be a tough night for him.
But then also remember, when these guys are cutting weight, yes, let's say they cut 40 pounds, 45 pounds, they made that weight. And then they're, there's banana bags, obviously, they got 24 hours to recuperate. Fine, they're doing all that. But now, I don't know, nowadays the science is pretty advanced, I'm sure, and they're able to put that weight back on, that water weight back on in a way where electrolytes are back in. But I don't know how much of their body is at peak 100%. You know what I mean? So it's going to probably go down to whether Volkanovski or Islam are going to be at their peak, and who's going to be at a higher level of endurance and strength. Volkanovski's really good, so is Islam. And Joe Rogan,
I think what's his name? The guy Oliveira. I think Oliveira would have been a better fight for Volkanovski. Like I'm sure Volkanovski would have rathered Oliveira. Because he knows that's going to be a little more of a stand-up fight. Oliveira was probably going to shoot still, but Oliveira has a lot of stand-up game. Like you look at the fights, you know what I mean? Their history. Islam's always shooting. He's always going to go in there and choke you out. I mean, yeah, he does have, compared to like Khabib, he has a little more stand-up from what you see, right? But at the end of the day, he knows if he's gonna have any kind of trouble, he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna shoot," and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and grab a limb and squeeze.
So yeah, but people like Oliveira, you saw what happened on his last fight. He wanted to,
he tried to pull guard and that didn't work.
And again, he tried to fight from the top. didn't work like either, you know. So like this is again like a really legit black belt, you know, in BJJ.
Yep.
Everybody knows that the majority of his fight he has won it like, you know, via submission. So again, like bring your like it's just a matter of what's your game like versus the other, you know. That's the beauty of MMA.
Yeah.
So
you know,
DC trains obviously with Khabib and Islam, right?
At ATT, right?
Yeah, and he was talking to Joe. Joe asked him, "Is like, hey, is his choke that strong?" And DC said, "Let me tell you a story." So during the training, DC told him, "Hey, can you show me how you do this choke?" And he ended up putting DC into the choke, and DC's like, "Holy shit, he's about to tap me," because they actually squeeze. Like as far as, and this is DC. As far as their frame goes, yeah. As far as
division,
yeah,
champion.
As far as their frame goes, they're much smaller than DC. However, these guys are just strong as hell. I mean, just look at their jaws, man. I mean, I hate to say, but they look like cavemen. You know what I mean? They just have that strength.
Oliveira's a legit black belt. You saw how fast he tapped.
Yeah.
The moment he switched to the other side and got that angle,
he didn't even switch. He was in a half guard. He tapped
remember,
him out
he was
of
on
half
one
guard.
side. Oliveira got him to switch, and like 2 seconds later, he tapped.
Yeah, he tapped him in the half guard. Which you shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah,
because
but the squeeze on those guys is just insane.
Just
so I don't know if these people do it for the sake to like, you know, expand a little bit of terror on their game. But the fact that these people are actually training with bears and stuff like that, you know, that actually scares the hell out of me. You know? Like honestly, you know?
Yeah,
like
crazy.
honestly,
or
man.
like did you guys see the picture of Kevin Holland after the Chimaev fight? You know, the when he fought Hamzat?
Yeah.
And like, you know, it went to go tap the hand, he shoots right away, grabs his back, and he woke up the next day with his eyes red from how hard he squeezed him.
yeah, that's pop little capillaries. I mean, that's
the pressure in your head. Yeah.
So
That's how hard he squeezed that.
There was an interview.
Chechen motherfucker strong.
Yeah. Well, there was a whole thing like, you know, yeah. So Khamzat is from Chechnya, but the Khabib and
Dagestan.
they're from Dagestan. Yeah. But the thing, I was watching the thing with Khabib, and they all come in with this mentality and was super cool and quiet. You know, a lot of times we watch these, you know, reels and things like that come up, and
I
the guy
keep
was
watching
like,
them too much. That's why I notice I'm saying brother a lot.
yeah. Yeah. So the
Yeah, bro. You know what I mean?
yeah. So the thing is with them, and he was like, listen, he goes, you want your name out there? Nobody's going to do it for you. And he was very quiet. And a lot of times you watch this and like, yeah, these are some guys very distant, you know, and he's saying things, you know, it is what it is, right? But in reality, that's how these guys come in with this mentality. If I want my name to be out there, I have to do something about it. If not, go home. Just like that's what he said. You're not going to do this, then go home. Nobody's going to do this for you. You have to do this for yourself. Nobody's going to give this to you. You have to do this for you. And then that's what he said. Just the talent is not enough. You can have talent, but if you don't put in the work, who cares that you have talent?
Unless you're John Jones.
Well, John Jones is a little bit different. And I
That's
think
what I said, unless you're John Jones.
yeah, because Rogan was talking about this. You know, he's got this perfect body for MMA because he's got these skinny legs. And he can literally pop those legs up super quickly up in the air and kick somebody in the head because their legs are so light.
The guy has like you know, the perfect body context like for the sport, you know.
Because the bigger your legs are, the harder you're gonna kick, but the slower you're gonna be.
I believe he's a purple belt in BJJ as well. So he's been training, you know, on that end as well. I think he started as a wrestler. You know, that was his background, I think.
Sure.
I don't.
But again,
so.
I think, you know, like, anyways, regardless, you know, the John Jones it's one of the it's one of the fighters out there that everybody needs to, you know, like bow. Like, listen, this guy this guy is the shit, you know?
All right, so the ultimate question, who's the GOAT, John Jones or Khabib?
I don't know, man. I just
I mean, if you ask me,
if other guys above Khabib. Go ahead though.
No, if you ask me, I have to give it to Khabib. Cause
really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Regardless of your accomplishments, you know, like you being like a champion and probably, you know, this guy could be everything. But John Jones hasn't been the most, you know, consistent and respectful, you know, character in the sport. This guy is not a role model for the new generation. This guy has been consistently like
But that's what makes you the GOAT. We're just talking about in the ring here. In the
ring it's something, but you gotta like when you see two great people in the same spotlight and doing everything there is like it needs to be done like for the sports to grow. Because again, it's not what you did. It's like what you leave behind to like the newer generation that they're actually gonna be looking up to you.
I don't think that's what makes you the GOAT, though.
I mean,
I do agree.
Khabib doesn't have the numbers to be the GOAT.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
he doesn't have the numbers to be the GOAT. But you're actually comparing, to me myself. I think you're comparing apples to pineapples at this point. Not even comparable. My perception. John Jones, I think it's the greatest fighter of them all. But if you want to get who's the best at what they do and what they brought to the equation, they brought to the sports, they're bringing to the newer generation, I think Khabib by far beats it.
Yeah, because I agree. If I were to pick, and that would be the only reason that I would say Khabib is because number one, he's super humble. You know what I mean? I like that about the fighters when they're humble. And in addition to that, he did open his Eagle FC Championship, which he took it back home, right? Which means he's doing something. He's taking it back to his country and doing something for these kids that might not have the opportunity to become something because they don't have the equipment, they don't have the place to train, things like that. Because Dagestan, if you know anything about it, it's not the best necessarily place infrastructurally or logistically to have these kind of things, right? So I think Khabib has it just because of the legacy he's gonna leave behind him. I think that's what it could be. But if you look at the numbers, pure numbers, John Jones got it.
I mean, I also look at fighters like GSP.
No, GSP, like
Mighty Mouse,
one of the greatest. I
think those guys meet those same standards.
Richard Johnson, yeah,
and
great.
the same of humble respect. Yeah. What they do for the sport. Mighty Mouse is still fighting.
Yeah, he is.
And but then GSP, I think those guys have more numbers and they meet the same standards that you guys are placing forward in the sense of what they're leaving behind.
Yes, but see the thing.
That's why I would put them over Khabib. Khabib has I think Khabib has too short of a run.
So
that's my problem.
So again, you mentioned Khabib and you mentioned John Jones, all right? And again, like following up on our your boy Alex, Alex, thank you for hopping on and your comments. You have these two great fighters, right? But what's your opinion on people juicing up into the sport? You've never heard like Khabib in any type of controversial situation when it comes to, steroids.
There is some speculation about
like
that.
Steroids or and John Jones. And again, I think it's a matter of age. It's one like John Jones was one of the youngest UFC champions. So the guy was living life. The guy won everything. Went out, party. Like hookers here, cocaine there, whatever, and then a couple of weeks training and then back champion again. So all these other fighters doing all this the entire world again, I gotta give it to DC. I mean, I really love the guy, but if DC is a champion, it's because John Jones was not on the ring. That was his nemesis.
Mm-hmm. And then when he got in the ring with John Jones the 2 times, what
did
John Jones do?
Destroyed
him, mopped him.
I mean, yeah, you want to be a champion? You're a champion. Okay, you're a champion. Okay, but John Jones is not on the ring.
What do you guys think of? You guys, did you watch John's last fight when he fought Dominic Reyes? You guys watched that fight? That was a close fight. Controversial. A lot of people said he might have lost. He might have won. Who was it the other day? Paul Felder. You know Paul Felder?
No.
He used to fight in the UFC. He's one of the commentators now. The ginger guy that commentates on the side.
Oh yeah.
That's him. He used to fight. He was saying, damn, I lost it. Gordon, you asked him before?
What's that? Okay, so
I forgot what he was talking about.
A little bit more slushy for you.
Yeah.
So definitely, I have to I had to give it to a UFC. You know, like great like cards upcoming. You know, so everybody's actually, you know, paying attention to that. Like,
I'm mad that they moved.
Good thing to come.
We were supposed to get it in February, Cheeto Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, and they moved it to March. It's now a month later.
See, the thing is, I think also Khabib, why Khabib was also like, you know, propelled to these, because he really fought the ultimate shit talker, Conor. You know what I mean? The ultimate shit talker. You had two camps: people that loved Conor and people that hated Conor.
Yeah.
So whoever loved Conor, they're like, Conor's gonna win, and they were there to watch. And who hated Conor, even if they're not watching Conor, they were there to watch him lose. Because he knew this was the guy.
This is part of the strategy of these people, you know? Is to get on your opponent's head. You know? Do you guys remember that fight, Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, Jose Aldo was literally shedding on his pants. He knew he was going to lose that fight prior to like going on the mat.
And he lost it very quickly.
It was like, I believe 13 seconds, I believe.
It's very fast. It's under 30 seconds that he got him out.
13 seconds. 1-3. And you see, like, you know, McGregor on the outside.
Some people who, at that time, were like, oh, this is the GOAT. You know what I mean? At that time, we were like, oh, okay. This guy's Hall of Famer. Gonna go.
But McGregor, you know, McGregor
went in there in 13 seconds.
Trash talked this guy so much in such an effective way that he beat Jose Aldo before he even got into the octagon. Yeah. It's a mental game. And the same thing with Gordon Ryan with all the fighters as well.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that talks a lot from what I've heard, right?
Well, because you have to. That's what brings the numbers.
But he talks a lot, but then again, like, you know,
he backs it up.
He backs it up, you know. So again, like, he talked that much and with such a confidence that makes you, you know, like, you know, doubt of yourself or your abilities and everything you've done. You know, so that's part of the game. So McGregor was he was a genius, like, you know, on the trash talk, you know, system, and doing that. And getting all so that was there's two sides of the story. He was the most beloved hero, and the most like hated villain. Yeah. You know, so he had like everybody wanted to, like, I want Conor to, you know, to lose, but all my money is on Conor, you know. So you have like a dichotomy there, you know, like double morale, you know. I don't know how to put it.
And then and I think also what happened was Conor kept the same attitude of trash talking with Khabib, but that kind of fired back because he touched things. Because you kind of have to realize these guys are very conservative Muslims, and he touched things that you shouldn't touch. That lit a fire under Khabib. If anything, I mean, you saw the aftermath after the fight. As composed and as much composure as Khabib has. Dude, guy jumped over the ring and jumped.
Bring me my belt.
Yeah,
where's my belt?
Yeah, he jumped over into the stands, man.
No,
like that's how pissed this guy was.
No. Now, have you guys seen the clip of when Islam jumps in the cage? Conor slips that punch perfectly and nails him with a left hand. Yeah, perfect on Islam. That shit was funny.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I think Conor's shit talking worked on 99.9% of the fighters, but he just fired back on Khabib, because Khabib wasn't gonna let it go. Talking shit about his dad, talking shit about the religion, talking shit about.
You think if Conor beats Chandler, he's automatically gonna go for the belt? Got that Dana White privilege, huh? I think so.
Yeah, he has that.
I think so.
He has that you know, ace card, you know, under his sleeve. But like, again, you know, I don't. He's the you know, the most renowned face of USC. You know, and he actually put USC like up there. You know, that's Conor McGregor. You know.
Absolutely. So, and I think there's no doubt about that.
I think it also comes down to the numbers, right? So if Conor wins against Chandler. And
that fight is bringing numbers no matter what. And, you know, they made sure of it by making them tough coaches. They're going to be coaching the tough series together.
Yeah.
So, like, they're like, no, we're not only going to give you a big fight with Chandler, No, we're gonna give you hella eyes episodes of shit talking. No, that fight is gonna be big.
So the thing is gonna be here now. If he does get to that point, and if they do give him that championship clap, I think, in my opinion, what's gonna happen is gonna be 50-50 for Conor, because no matter who it is, whether it's Volkanovski or Islam, right, whoever is the champion. Now, if Conor loses one more time, that's gonna be the last nail, I think, in my opinion, in his coffin.
I agree.
That's going to be it. So Conor has to think very carefully whether he's going to want to take that fight. Because, Volkanovski maybe, but Islam will never go on a tough fighter with Conor to get those eyes on them. So he's going to be just back to same old shit talking, right? So to spruce up Conor's comeback, I guess, to take the championship, I think Conor's going to have to think very long, and very seriously about whether he wants to take that fight with Islam.
And it's hard too because you got guys like Poirier just won against Chandler, so it's like, well, he's first next, right?
Yeah, but
and then you've got Oliveira, we don't know who Oliveira's gonna fight next.
Yeah, but the thing is, Conor's last fight, he had this huge injury. That was his last fight, right?
Yeah, when he got his leg broken.
So
It's
I mean, you guys remember what happened with people like Anderson Silva, or the same, Chris Weidman with the same situation,
Well, he hasn't fought since then.
People
He still hasn't fought.
they just don't recover.
They're never the same.
They're never the same. They don't have the exact same confidence. Like, Anderson Silva was it was a low kicker, So
but
when
Anderson
that
Silva's
happened,
a good example of one of those guys that came back pretty well.
He did come back, but he never really.
Well, there's the age with that.
Yeah, but the Conor is not that. Conor is not a spring chicken either. What is
No,
he? 35, 36 now? 37, 34. There you go. He's not a spring chicken. I think after you hit your 30s, your levels start going down unless you are on pharmaceuticals.
But you also have to. I was just about to say. You also have to look at the new technology we have to stem cells and all this shit compared to just 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago, but however long it was that Anderson and Chris's thing was only like 3-4 years ago, right? When Chris Weidman broke his.
Yeah.
And Anderson Silva was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not the same now.
I mean,
5 years is a big difference.
Anderson Silva broke his
his calf.
his shin.
Yeah.
It was with Chris Weidman actually, and then the same thing happened to Chris Weidman on the same spot. It's like this is Murphy's law at its finest. But but anyways, I have a topic for you guys. I have a comment. We have a comment here on the chat. Give me your thoughts on Tommy Fury and Logan Paul. Is it Jake Paul? Jake Paul. Yeah.
All right. So
Go ahead.
I like to see Jake Paul lose. Why? Because I think it's Jake Paul.
Because
Right?
Jay's a hater.
So, huh?
Because Jay's a hater.
No, well, here's the thing. Jake Paul is a really good troll. He's the number one. Him and his brother are number one at trolling.
I thought you said Andrew was better.
Andrew was the number one. And now that Andrew is not there anymore, Jake Paul. Well, see, there are several good trolls that we have in the world. One of them is Andrew. Second is Jake Paul with his brother, and then third was and is Donald Trump. So these guys are great trolls.
I like that one.
Yeah, these guys are great trolls. They know how to get in under the skin of people, this and that. I want Jake Paul to lose because of his loud mouth, and I don't like loud mouth fighters. Now, with that being said, Jake Paul is doing a lot of good for all these fighters that are not getting paid. And in addition to that, he's bringing younger generation that is not very interested in the combat sports into combat sports because of his popularity, right? So it's a catch-22, right? For me, I want him to lose, but at the same time, I understand what he's doing for the sport and for these people that are not necessarily getting paid. Do you think Woodley was going to get that kind of a payday if he didn't fight him?
Never.
Do you think, what's his name? Askren was going to get paid? No, Askren was out, bro.
Silva just fought him. So, did you guys see this was big a couple days ago, it came out, the comparison of them on the pads? Oh, I gotta find that. I gotta show you that shit. Anyways, like Tommy's like hitting it like a real boxer, and Jake is like a little girl. Pop. And everybody saw that and started roasting Jake. And was like, Joe, you're getting your ass beat.
Now, see, this is what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen, they're going to go to the distance, and they're gonna give it to Tommy. Because they have to. He's a professional boxer. He's still bringing the numbers. But they're going to go the distance.
You heard what Tyson said?
It would be
Tyson said, "Don't come home if you lose."
It would be it would be ridiculous, you know, if Fury loses that fight. It would be ridiculous.
Mhm.
It would be an embarrassment for the sport, you know? Because again, like Woodley, he's an MMA fighter. He's not a boxer, you know. So and all these
traditionally a wrestler as well.
Huh?
Yeah.
Traditionally a wrestler.
Askren
So was
was
Ben.
a wrestler straight.
you gotta understand like
Silva's
Silva,
old.
you know, yeah, but like you gotta understand the difference between like you being a boxer or you being like an MMA fighter, you know. Jake Paul, he wouldn't last like 3 minutes like in an MMA fight.
Yeah,
you
he
know?
wouldn't last in a cage, yeah, no.
And he's training, you know, like I've seen like clips of he like training BJJ now. You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
saw
know that.
Yeah, he's training BJJ, a little bit of wrestling here. You know, probably he wants to like make the move, and but again, it's just embarrassing. Tommy Fury should be the winner by far. You know, you remember when he fought Mayweather as well.
Yeah, well, no, Mayweather was
That
his
was
brother,
Logan.
Oh look, yeah. Again, that fight was completely ridiculous as well. You see, like
Yeah, it was a show. Yeah, it was a show.
you know?
Now, what do you guys think of Mayweather? That he's just doing all these exhibitions now with all these YouTubers. And he said it the other day. He's like, people want me to come back,
My
but
friend.
why would I do that when I'm here playing around with these amateurs and making a bunch of money still?
I'm gonna say the same thing that Nate Diaz said when he beat Conor McGregor. I'm not surprised, motherfucker. You know,
Who was it that said that the other
my
day?
friend. Like obviously, he's fighting like all these like Mayweather is all for the money now. That's what it is. That's money maker. Like Mayweather. This guy is not up to a level like to be fighting anybody now. The guy is retired. He wants to preserve his no losses, right?
Yeah, he's 50-0. 49-0, sorry.
49-0. I mean, it's too old like for the sport like to be So I think enough is enough.
So there's
Send that clip to the chat. Send it to Miggy to put it in the chat so they can see what we're watching.
All I saw was like.
Hey, by the way, you've been thirsty. Do you want this?
Yeah. I need a little bit of ice. Okay, my boy Arthur just said he's 50-0, like for your records.
Oh, he's 50 now. Okay. Yeah. Muchacho hielo.
So thank you. I'm loving the hospitality here.
What do you? So then another good fight we got coming up that was already booked. Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya.
I mean,
You think
Adesanya
Israel-
is my brother's favorite fighter in the world.
He's one of my top 3 favorite fighters.
Adesanya has everything it takes, to be the GOAT, honestly. But I think, and again, this is one of the best trash talkers out there,
Yeah, he's another one.
See, you guys might call me crazy, but I put Adesanya over Khabib. You guys might call
way?
over accomplishment GOAT.
Nah, bro.
I mean, Adesanya has a long way to be there, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but still, it's too early for you to be making those comments now.
I feel like Adesanya is a humble brag, almost.
He's not humble, bro, by any
No.
means. He's
No?
another shit talker troll out there. Now,
Huge trash talker.
talking about in-car BJJ matches and phone booth ones.
Yeah, no, we got like plenty of topics here. We got the in-car BJJ. We have the slapping competition, which I like.
I think that's
I'm a huge fan now.
Oh,
you know?
really?
Yeah, I was like, that sounds like crazy, like phone booth like tie matches.
Phone booth time.
I think the it's crazy. Like you putting two people on a car, like trying to like choke each other or stuff like that. It's just crazy, But again, it's just putting a little bit more, difficulty into a game, into actually making it possible. Cause bro, like you're in a car, like what the hell, But anyways, like people are just making up stuff. Probably making money. Probably we should do it, Jay, one time, Like we can bring a lot of followers to the podcast,
See you guys in a phone booth tied up and smash each other.
See, why I don't think Izzy...
Because you have like people, let me choke you with a seatbelt and stuff like that, like, oh, let me pull the brake on you, you bastard,
Well, why I think Izzy is not the GOAT and he's not better than Khabib because...
I'm not saying he's the GOAT. I just don't believe Khabib is the GOAT. And I personally would put Izzy over Khabib on my list. That's a personal list.
The reason I wouldn't put Izzy over Khabib because Izzy is very good at striking because that's his background. Like he came in from kickboxing.
He's a kickboxer.
That's his background. He does have some good takedown defense. However, he's not good at taking down or ground and pound. Right? He does everything on top. Now. Khabib,
I don't know. You can't say that. I don't believe that's true because you look at him versus Marvin Vettori. He stuffed those takedowns and he smashed Marvin on the floor. And what is Marvin? A wrestler.
I get it. But what I'm trying to say, Khabib's wrestling is on another level. Khabib's groundwork is on another level. Yes, he's not that good of a striker, right? He's not at Izzy's level. However, he does have decent understanding what striking is and he can neutralize it decently. But then nobody can neutralize Khabib when Khabib is taking you down. So Izzy's never faced anybody at Khabib's level of wrestling, at Khabib's level of intensity.
I agree.
That could take him down. All of these guys, yeah, they're wrestlers, this and that. That's all good and dandy. Not taking it away from them. They're great fighters. However, I don't see how Izzy's skills are better than Khabib's skills. Now they both have advantages,
I think they're.
But
what I'm saying is I put him over Khabib as a fighter as a whole. We're not comparing like his wrestling versus his wrestling. No, as a whole. And look at Izzy's career and his career and their fights. First, more entertaining. More title defenses.
That's true. And also, you got to remember, Izzy never drops weight. He's at that weight at all times.
Yeah, he went into the Jan Blachowicz fight at 195, which is only 10 pounds heavier than
he
his
went
shit.
in Blachowicz fight eating a pizza on a scale, bro.
Yeah, because he's like I said, he went into 194 point something. He weighed in, and then Blachowicz is at 205, cutting at 205.
Yeah, he's at that weight. You know what I mean? So when he's going into fights, he's at 100%. Whenever he goes into the fights, he's at 100%, literally at 100%. Now, who's to say where are these guys at? Because neither one of us have really seen them in their full weight, what they can do and what they cannot do. This is only like coming from the coaches, this and that. But you can't really judge that unless they go at that weight with somebody at that weight.
Yeah, we can only judge them off what we see in the cage.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It is what it is. But I had a question here. I think, you started the match. Oh yeah, they're just trolling.
So Easy. It's not. He's a purple belt under Andre Galbao. Recently promoted, but recently I think it's like 7-8 months ago. So Easy's like perfecting his game, ground game. But
I agree with you that he's on the road to being a GOAT.
But
one of the GOATs.
But
he
again,
will eventually.
long road,
Now, if what's his name? If
Pereira puts it on him again.
Puts it on him again. And Pereira won against him in his own game. Pereira won against Izzy at Izzy's game.
Well, it's also Pereira's game. It's both
Correct.
of theirs.
Yeah,
that's just what they do, though. You can't look at that as a factor because both of them are kickboxers. They've already fought before. This is the third time they fought.
Yeah, and
also
that's crazy.
This is going to be third time they're fighting. Third time, right?
They've already fought 3 times. They fought twice in kickboxing.
And did Pereira win? Because I know Pereira won at least once.
He did. The first one was a draw, right?
I think the first he lost, then it was a draw, and then he's lost again.
Okay.
That was the way it went. But again, The same thing as for like DC and John Jones. Pereira is the nemesis
He is.
of Israel.
But we don't have the same case in the sense that Josh, Izzy is there.
But
You know what I mean? Like, for example, that first round, you give him 5 more seconds, and that man was on the floor.
But that's the thing, like,
You know, you don't have that same thing with DC and John Jones. Just watch it, and John Jones puts on a.
But that's the problem, you know. Like all these fighters, which I obviously respect out there. I mean, they all train very hard, consistent, discipline.
Yeah, we don't know shit.
You know, like water, no alcohol. They don't smoke. They don't. I mean, nothing. You know, it's like, 16, 18 hours of training and then sleep, and repeat. And then you find, non-disciplined kids like John Jones.
They're coming in and just mopping the floor.
They just come in, they snore like a complete line, party like the night before, and they just go in there and they just win and make fun of like everything. It's like everything's a game.
So
and they're destroying like the
but
game.
But I wanted to say, I think that talent only goes so far, because what did Dominic Reyes do? He debatably beat him, and then what did not Dominic Reyes? What is his name? Yeah, Reyes, right? This is the last name, the guy who fought Jones last. And then what happened to Dominic on his next fight? First round, knocked out. But then he went the full distance with the so-called GOAT, and debatably beat the so-called GOAT. That only takes it so far. Yeah, he beat guys like DC and Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, like listen,
these new guys are different.
Listen,
is what I'm trying to get at.
In the art, there's a saying. It says like, a cualquiera se le muere un tío, meaning that like anything could happen, bro. Like you can be, I mean, and we saw that.
Like someone just said, Edwards and Usman. Anything can happen.
Usman was a good example of that. Like Usman was destroying Edwards like big time. At the end of the fight, he was just like loosen up, whatever.
The first round was the only round that debatably you could say, okay, maybe Edwards got, but 2, 3, 4, he beat him up. He beat him up.
And Usman just got like very confident in his game, whatever,
And he
not pay attention to all those.
I don't think it was that, because what Edwards did was
not taking anything away from Edwards.
I think what you have to do is more just give props to Edwards' game on how well he set that up.
Yeah, that was a beautiful kick.
Yeah.
That was a like that's gotta be like one of the best.
He feinted that left hand so perfectly. Got him to put the elbows forward and just wrapped around.
Yeah, but that was a classic kickboxing move. That was just as classic as it gets. This is back to basics. You know what I mean? Boom, pop. But anyway, so we have a question: Edwards versus Suman. Who wins? Number 2. Usman.
Number 2.
So again, it's a continue with the same question. We saw that fight. We saw that Usman was way superior.
Yeah.
At that point,
we all witnessed that shit.
Usman was, he was ahead of the game. It's just a matter of keep on doing whatever you're doing, and just don't.
He could have just been on the back pedal. That whole round and walked away with his belt still. But no, he decided to stand there and battle it out, even though there was only a couple minutes left. And he paid the price. He paid the piper.
Yeah, he did pay the price. But
all it took was one mistake. Boom.
I do think
out.
I think they're gonna still make Usman the favorite. Edwards will still probably be the underdog. Just kind of how we're seeing with Izzy and Pereira.
You remember
Izzy is still rated as the favorite for the.
You remember Edwards versus Nate Diaz?
Yes, and the same thing.
You remember? I mean, Edwards won the fight, but
yeah,
good. You remember when he was dancing like this,
He like took 2 steps back.
He wobbled, after that great.
Nate is like, I got you.
Yeah. It is what it is. You know, the MMA is a wild sport, so it's gonna continue happening, and I'm sure we'll see it. And I have no doubt, Easy will be one of the best, and he's gonna get Hall of Famer. You know, no matter what. But it's just time will tell. You know, so that's pretty much, in my opinion. We'll see.
I think it is. I just look at him and I'm like, okay. I give in, yes, Anderson at the end of his career, but put a class on Anderson. Put a class on Robert Whittaker twice, who at one point we were looking at like, oh shit, this guy's the best, right? When Robert was champion, like, who the fuck is going to beat Whittaker, right?
Yeah, was good.
And Marvin Vettori, Paulo Costa. We saw what Costa did to somebody like Rockhold. That's another guy they're like, oh my God, one of the, at his time, right? Old now, but whatever. Paulo Costa, all these guys that he gets in there and he just shows he is who he is. Now, for example, you think if Robert Whittaker...
Listen, bro, they're not paying us. The racetrack. There we go.
Robert,
they're not sponsoring us.
What do you think? What do you think is gonna happen when Alex gets somebody who's not gonna play by that game of stand up, like Izzy said? Because Izzy's going in there to, and we all know, to say I am better than this guy at kickboxing. That is not an MMA fight. When they go in there, that is not an MMA fight. It's not. They are going in there to kickbox. But now you get somebody like Marvin Vettori or Whittaker that's going to shoot on Pereira. Now, Pereira has one of the best, what they call, who say they had one of the best switch knees for the takedown defense there is. But those guys are something else. And they're big dudes.
I don't know. Last thing I saw about Pereira, he was down in the jungles of Brazil doing capoeira with people. You know what I mean? So, we got a new guest joining.
Woo!
Yeah.
What up?
So, I don't know, man.
What do you
we'll see.
think? Izzy versus Pereira.
I think Easy takes it.
Yeah.
I think Pereira is...
A few words.
You think Easy takes it easy?
No easy, no. No.
Not easy.
I think...
No, not easily. That's not going to happen.
I think he's more technical. Pereira just hits hard as long as Easy doesn't get caught. I think, and what he did in the last fight, which was stupid from Easy, I think. I mean, he's a great fighter. He stayed on the cage, right? Against the cage. And just took the shots. Like, who does that, right?
I mean, if you watch all the Adesanya's, previous fight, he
gets
loves
out.
He loves to do that. Go into the cage
he gets out
and starts making fun of.
Yeah,
like,
but not
people.
against Pereira, bro. Pereira's like
that's what I'm saying. You need to know your fighter. You need to go like not everybody is the same.
Yeah.
So again, don't lower your
Yes.
your game or whatever, your defenses.
Yeah. I look at it this way.
Just keep it up, because one minor mistake is gonna cost you the fight, and that's what happened to him.
I feel like I have one saying, like with these fighters, like for myself, I say, oh, don't be cocky, right? Because it takes one hit and you're out.
Yeah.
But what do you say, like, for example, who made more money, Conor or Khabib?
Conor.
Okay, but then why?
Because
Because he talks a lot of shit.
Well,
He used that to his advantage. So, I mean, I see all these guys who talk and talk and talk. Yeah, you don't pass a certain line, but you gotta talk some shit, man. If you want to be, if you don't want to have to be like Khabib and, stick to one thing, for example, and because you're so good at wrestling, that's why everybody knows you, and now you come in here and you've squeezed everybody and smashed everybody. Like, guys like Conor are still keeping that fame because of what they did, but also because of how much they talk. You think if Conor just fell off of social media, he would keep the same face he has now? No. That's part of why he stays, why people are still talking about him like we're talking about him now, is because he still talks some bullshit all the time.
Not only that, the reason Conor made a ton of money, because you have to think of it this way. The reason Conor made a ton of money and he was successful because he was a good businessman. What he did, he did his proper 12 that he ended up selling for $300 million. Yeah. I mean, he not only he earned money, because that fight that Khabib won, that was the largest purse that anybody got paid, which was $6 million. And Khabib was number one by taking that purse, right? So in the whole scheme of things, who made more money? As per UFC itself. I don't know if Conor did or somebody else did, but
Yes, he
Conor
definitely did.
was much smarter fighter in a sense of a businessman, how to generate the money.
Yeah, I mean, he was smart because if you look at his previous, like when he was younger, he wasn't as, I feel like he wasn't as cocky, but he realized the game.
That's what
of
I'm
how
trying
to
he
to.
make the
adapted.
So
Yeah.
money.
that's what I'm trying to get at is I don't take away from where I put a fighter necessarily because of the things they say, because you have to know that that's just them trying to sell their entertainment.
for sure.
So
I mean, even when he got beat by Khabib, I think there was a moment when Conor turned to Khabib and says, "Bro, it's all for
when he's getting smashed,
No, and he
he's
said
telling him it's all
It's just
business,
business.
it's all
brother.
business.
It's all business. It's just
you know?
business, brother. While he's getting smashed, he's telling, "Let's talk, brother." Khabib's on the top of him. Let's talk, brother. Let's talk now. You want to talk now? And then literally, like I think it was at the end of the round or after he choked him or
Yeah.
something. That
said it's
that
all
it's
business.
all business, brother. He said.
But yeah, it's all business. But I think Conor went too far. I
Yeah,
think.
that's what I mean. Like you can't
With
go
the-
too far.
He put his
Talking about his
Khabib's
family.
Yeah,
and shit,
yeah.
and, like,
Well,
and,
see,
tho-
'cause-
and those people, the Russians and all these Dagestan, bro, they don't take that shit lightly.
They take
Well,
it
he did that to
seriously.
the what's his name? The Scar.
Jose Aldo.
Jose Aldo, and that
Oh,
worked really well for him.
Yeah, mental game. Yeah.
Yeah, he did that with Jose Aldo, and that worked well. So he thought he can continue doing
Yeah,
that, which there was that bus scene where they're
Well,
throwing dollies at the bus.
He
and
did that to everybody, and before Khabib, it proved to work.
And did you see that whole thing where Khabib and what's his name, the Russian fighter, they were like in a camp together, like this was his boy, and then there was like a falling apart where Khabib like tweeted at him, like there was a whole debacle on a Twitter as well.
So, I know-
Artem.
So
with
Artem is different. Artem Lobov, Lobov was on Conor's original when he
Yes.
first did Tough, right?
Mhm.
When they
Yeah.
first did Tough, he was on that. And
Artem was
him and
Conor's boy.
Him and Artem were friends and stuff. Artem had something happen with Khabib,
Yes,
Yeah.
and I heard from what Dana White said. Basically, Khabib slapped Artem.
he did.
McGregor, Carl McGregor said, "Khabib slapped me." Khabib flew over, and that's when the whole bus thing happened.
So the thing was, I think Artem.
That's how Dana White literally explained the story.
Artem was talking shit to one of the Khabib's boys, and then Khabib confronted him. He's like, "Hey, listen, we're Russian. We're not supposed to act this way." Blah blah blah. And what he did, he grabbed him on his neck. Boom! There's a whole thing. They're in a hotel, like a hallway. I think that's where it
Yeah,
was.
I think
He
I've
grabbed him, and Artem called Khabib. Oh, he slapped me. Now this whole thing flares out. Khabib took it as an opportunity. I don't think Khabib gave a shit too much about the whole slap, but he took that as an opportunity. This is my opinion. He could have. I don't know where his alliances line up there, but he took that as an opportunity to promote his own agenda, which propelled the whole fighting, and that whole thing started. And then he started talking shit about the family and the religion, and then trying to offer him whiskey and this and that, and he didn't realize that that's not gonna fly with this guy. Like, it's gonna actually light a fire under his ass.
So again, you were asking something similar like earlier today, like why a legend like Khabib retire at such an early age?
His mom, because so from what I understand, well, this is what Khabib said, right? Basically, after his dad passed away,
No, I know that was a big
his
hit for him.
mom asked him, "Don't fight no more, cause your dad is always by your side, and you with your dad." And he promised his mom last fight, which was against Gaethje. After this, I will retire. And they say, "Why don't you come back?" He's like, "I promised my mom I'm not gonna fight, and I'm not coming back." Which I give him respect.
Yeah, you gotta respect him, but
But plus, he cleaned everybody, bro.
but what's the difference between like fighting and or promoting promoting a fight?
There's a few
'Cause
names
now-
you
now
can spit
he's a
out that
pro-
he missed, I'd say.
No, he's still on the business. He's still in the entertainment. He's still training.
Yeah, he's training. He's
And
not-
he
not-
has his own, fighting system. So what's the
Yeah.
difference between like fighting and being like behind the scenes?
Because it's not a competition anymore. He's not going into a ring with best of the best in the world, So the chances of him getting very injured and things like that are much lower. And I think it again goes back to like the whole family unit and the understanding that they have. Like, yeah, you have to understand, like, the honor within a family with these guys is super big. Like, it surpasses everything else in the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's these guys pretty much, I'm gonna just put it in a layman's terms. In my opinion, this is what happens when they go for a job, and in a job somebody asks you, are you going to be able to perform well? They're usually, their answer is, it's not that, this is not what they're saying, but this is the best way for me to explain it, is they're not saying that I'm not going to be able to perform the job. It's more like, if I'm not able to perform the job, it's not that I'm going to put you as a company to shame. I'm going to put my family to shame. And that's a much bigger of a deal than me putting you as a company to shame, right? So family unit is huge for these guys. And when they promise something to their, especially mother or father, like, they're not taking these words back. Like, because the whole honor system is pretty big as far as as far as the way these guys are raised, like, super conservative.
I wanted to ask you, because we talked about it the other day when I saw that Conor got the fight with Chandler. You said that you thought Chandler would win.
I think Chandler's winning. I think he's breaking another leg.
You think he's breaking another leg?
Yeah. No,
I don't
I don't
know,
take
man.
anything away from McGregor.
No,
I
no.
think it's a good equal fight.
I mean, I'm with you, man. Again, it's like,
But anything can happen, right?
again, it's like my heart is with McGregor, but my money's with Chandler.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't
man.
I
look
feel
at
like
it that way.
Chandler, they both run out. I feel like they both run out of stamina, right?
Whoa,
No?
whoa,
No,
Or is Chandler is
no.
more stamina driven?
They're both very good endurance.
No, I think this is what's gonna happen. Conor is a certified sniper when he comes
That's
to
the
those
way I
fucking-
look at it.
those
That's
punches.
the thing. Yes.
He's a certified
and
sniper.
And Chandler's a guy with a tough chin and bombs on his hands.
Yeah.
That's really like
That's a good fight,
He
though.
is, but he's not Gaethje.
I like but this is the thing. Exactly, right? He fought Gaethje, he lost. But anyway, I look at it this way. I think that the Chandler and McGregor thing, if McGregor is at his McGregor peak kind of thing, right? Like him fighting Diaz and Aldo kind of like condition, similar to that, I think we're going to see a similar fight of Chandler versus Oliveira.
Chandler versus-
Yeah, I can see that, but I can see that, but I don't think Chandler has the striking skills to go toe to toe with Conor. And Conor's not going to take this to the ground.
If Chandler even like if he attempts to fight it like he did with Gaethje, he'll lose that fight.
Yes,
because he's gonna try throwing hooks, and Conor's gonna sneak that left hand
and Gaethje is known because I was watching an interview about Gaethje and Rose Namajunas. They're all trained together, right?
Yeah.
And Usman, I think they're all trained together. And the coach was saying that Gaethje is by far has the strongest hits. And this is they're comparing Usman,
which is a 170. He's higher.
Yeah, so they were saying that Rose has the most skills.
Yeah.
And Gaethje is literally like he drops bombs, and as small of a guy as he is, and I don't think Chandler is at Gaethje's level, and Gaethje is not at Conor's level.
I do think Chandler is at the level of all those guys because you saw the way he So look, if there was one guy that you looked at in the UFC and like that guy is not getting knocked out, personally, it was like Tony Ferguson. Tony took shots from everybody, and he would hit the floor and pop right back up at Kukui, like they call him. And you saw what that man did with that front kick. Tony hit the floor and dropped like a rock.
Yeah.
You know
And that shit was detrimental. So I give it to Chandler in the sense I think he's up there, and he's got that power. But when it comes to technicality, I think McGregor's got it.
But Tony is also he's one of those fighters that is really good, but he just could never he could smell it. He could smell it. He could almost touch it, but never did.
Look at it at the dogs he was fighting.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like same thing with Dustin. He got the interim champ just like Tony did. But it's just because the dogs they were fighting, brother, Khabib, Conor, they had those guys in the division. Yeah. And it's like, well, it's hard to get past those guys.
Yeah. So we got a question. Any fighter, living, dead, retired, or whatever.
Any fighter?
What is dream fight to see?
Mike Tyson versus Ali.
Damn,
that's a good example. And if we can relate it to
and the primes though.
Yeah. If we can relate it to MMA, I mean, it happened in the UFC. Which is Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya.
Mm-hmm. But
But Anderson in his
but at their prime.
in their prime.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that would have been a
Or
very, that's up
GSP
there.
versus Khabib, maybe.
That's
Who?
another one.
Khabib
GSP.
and GSP.
That was a big super fight. They teased, but Khabib
mean-
wouldn't come back for
But
it.
GSP's old.
GSP's old, yeah. But,
GSP.
I'm with Arthur on the Muhammad Ali thing because I'm an Ali fan. Like for example, you ask me who's the GOAT,
Yeah.
I'm spitting out Muhammad Ali, and I will argue with you to the end of the time.
Well, see, the
about
thing
that.
is with Muhammad Ali, he perfected boxing. Before that, no one, like fly like
Yeah,
a
it
butterfly,
was
sting like a
because
bee,
of him.
because no one had that type of footwork. No one was super light on their
I mean-
feet, and now you can see a lot of the boxers are super light on their feet. And he made the sport progress. And what Mike Tyson did, he did the opposite. He was kind of moving on his feet.
He kinda
was
just
short,
showed-
small, but his punches were so like devastating.
He's like a truck.
I mean, I don't
think,
have the statistics and everything, but I believe it's like the first 15 fights of Mike Tyson ended up in the first round.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
Was-
Mike Tyson was knocking
Machine,
people out.
bro.
it was
21?
that was scary, bro.
Yeah, he was,
like
he was
in
there
the,
to kill people.
in the first round, it was like right at it.
Yes.
I look at the guys who Mike Tyson fought, insane,
Yes.
right? Insane. But the guys who Muhammad Ali fought, it's like, yeah,
The greatest,
the great. Like for example, Frazier. When they saw Frazier, like nobody's beating that guy.
Frazier,
Nobody.
Sugar
and
Ray.
all those guys when they're like, oh, Muhammad Ali's gonna fight him. Sorry, Muhammad, this is the end of your reign. And he went in there and he danced around that ring and left them with fucked up faces.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He progressed the
Speed,
sport. He made the
bro,
sport better.
speed.
And you know who I can see now? I think is probably one of the best boxers right now is the Mexican fighter
Canelo? Oh,
Yeah.
Because Canelo hits like a ton of bricks and he's fast on his feet.
At
Even though he's been
168,
going up at his
168
weight
for
category,
sure.
he's been going up in the weight
Yeah.
category. He literally like embodies what kind of Ali was doing on his feet, and also what Mike Tyson was doing with his especially that hook into the liver. I mean, those guys are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he
I
delivers.
mean, he broke the guy's eye socket.
Yeah.
Saunders, he broke his socket. He put him to retirement. The guy that hasn't fought since.
yeah.
They had to put metal plates in his eye around
That's
his
over.
orbital bones.
Yeah.
But
And-
speaking of boxing, I have a question. So speaking of Canelo, right? There's a big fight coming up. I don't know if you guys familiar with the guys. Benavides, El Bandera Rojas versus Caleb Plant, that Canelo beat. Right? They're fighting, and whoever wins is a mandatory fighter for Canelo.
Really?
At what weight is this?
168.
Yeah, I think Canelo's
Benavides.
got it.
But I'm saying who you got in terms of Caleb Plant. I don't know if you've seen him fight or Benavides.
Versus Benavides. I haven't seen Benavides fight,
Benavides
so I couldn't
is-
tell you.
No losses, if I remember. Caleb has one loss against Canelo. And I think Benavides has 25 knockouts out of 29 fights.
I'm not sure who. I haven't
Okay.
seen Benavides fight. I've heard about Benavides. I've heard Canelo talking about him and why he doesn't want to fight him and this and that. Like first, he doesn't want to fight another Mexican fighter. He doesn't
Correct.
enjoy that. And second, he says Benavides doesn't have the
Credentials.
qualification. There you go, credentials
okay.
to fight him.
But I'm waiting for that fight.
what about one that we all know, Garcia versus Gervonta?
Oh,
Ooh, that's gonna be a nice one.
Garcia versus Gervonta.
I think that's a really good embodiment of what you were just talking about.
yeah.
Ali versus Tyson, like
I
a
look
guy
at
that
Garcia,
sticks and just
yeah.
like toe to toe, but is good with the head movement and finds his shots.
That's a
versus a guy
50-50.
that likes to stay on the outside, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. That's
I feel
that's
like
a good
Garcia
embodiment of what you were just
wins.
talking about.
but I also feel Gervonta, if he catches Garcia, and you know what I like about Gervonta is he starts slow, and they're like,
And he
"What's
picks
going
it
on?"
up.
And then he just like sixth gear and just puts you to
Gasses
sleep.
it.
He just fought a guy. I think he was Dominican,
Yes.
and
Yes.
dude, he hit him so hard the guy couldn't see.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he
Remember?
came out. He literally came out and was telling the guy,
Yeah.
"I couldn't see for
Yes.
a few
He
seconds
hit
after
him
he hit
so
me.
hard,
Black."
he thought he went blind.
Yeah,
So
he-
and then
he's like, "I
when the
can't fight
vision
no
came
more."
back, I didn't even know where I was.
Yes.
I didn't know where I was until my corner was telling me what the fuck was happening. And then they stopped the fight. They ended the round, and he didn't come out for the next
That's
round.
Yeah,
50-50 for me.
it's
I don't know.
funny,
I don't know
until
who
like
pick.
you become like you do combat sports such as MMA, jiu-jitsu per se or boxing at this point, Muay Thai, same thing. You got like people that actually they're more on the passive side, just waiting to capitalize errors.
Canelo likes that. He'll go against the rope. He's like, "Come on."
Yeah,
on.
you
And
get
then you guys got
You
guys
make a
like
mistake.
boom. Rod
Puts
Tang.
you to sleep.
Rod Tang
yeah.
from does Muay Thai. You guys got guys like him. It's like, come hit me. He
Yeah.
takes punches to the
You
face.
have people like boom,
and then
boom,
he just
boom, boom,
boom,
boom,
hits
boom.
them once.
So you-
He's arguably one of the best Muay Thai fighters in the world.
Yes, he
Rod Tang.
definitely is. And, they gave a chance for Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson.
Demetrius Johnson, yeah.
He fought him, and they did a special rules fight. So I heard Demetrius talking about this on Rogan the other day. He said they came to Demetrius and said, "Hey, we want you to fight Rod Tang for the Muay Thai World Championship." And Demetrius said, "No, I don't want to take that opportunity away from somebody who actually cares for really trains for Muay Thai. I'm an MMA fighter."
Yeah, but I don't know what happened to Demetrius Johnson. I think he left non-defeated in UFC, right?
So I'm not sure of his record exactly. I
In
do know he
UFC,
is.
I mean, the guy was like the top of the top. He was like dominating.
So the
Probably payouts.
one of the reasons.
Probably payouts. or
listen,
contracts.
listen. That was the only category. That was an embarrassment for UFC.
Yes,
That was the only
That's-
category
and that's
because
why
that
you
guy
don't see
lasted.
him.
That guy lasted like forever. They did, like the
No, so
the,
he
the
lost.
Ultimate Fighter, all that, like looking like the top legit, fighter in that category, like worldwide. To find a person for Demetrius Johnson and this guy kicked the hell out of
So-
everybody that went into.
Demetrius
fight.
lost to Dominic Cruz in the UFC, and as well as Henry Cejudo.
Really?
Oh, he lost to Cejudo?
So he beat Cejudo the first time, and then he lost the second time he fought Cejudo, and that's how Cejudo got the belt.
Money.
Yeah, but then again, also, I think it comes down to
Show
how
me
much
the
money. It comes down to how much money is being made. Perfect. I actually had a topic. I don't know if you're gonna get into this, but the topic was about
Chinese
what's
balloon?
more in the
Oh,
Chinese balloon, bro. Before we go into this damn Chinese balloon, bro, that thing flew halfway around the world. Went through Alaska, went through Canada. Canadians saw the balloon. They're like, "Oh, look at that!
A balloon."
They said,
Chinese
"Oh."
are celebrating Xi's birthday.
They
it's
said-
all good." Continue
Yeah,
to
they
fly
said,
over.
one of the Canadian scientists released the balloon. They're testing the atmosphere.
So I have a question. How did the U.S. government knew it was Chinese?
Because China came and said it was us.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They came up front like, yeah, that's my balloon.
So
In
what
U.S.
is that-
soil,
But the
yeah.
The thing
What is
is,
that
I
balloon?
understand their thing of them shooting down over next to South Carolina in the waters.
Yeah.
Because they were not sure if they shoot it down, what's inside the balloon. Maybe it's some freaking anthrax or whatever.
It's
right?
COVID.
Or COVID 23.
It's COVID.
So they shoot it over the water and they look at the winds. This way, wind takes it, to Europe. So get the anthrax to Europe. But it flew over Alaska. Nobody lives there, bro. Why didn't you shoot it when it was all over the Alaska?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the whole
something happened,
story.
God forbid something happened, everybody was going to be... Because, see, we're in the midterm elections. God forbid something happened, and one person, if there was something in there,
died,
one
got hit in the
American
head.
life got
Yeah.
hurt, bro, this would be a scandal. And midterm elections, this would not fly. So they had to kind of wait on this. And then, again,
And apparently it's the second balloon.
3 times.
Or-
Alex is saying it's
Hey,
3 times.
they've done it
times?
3 times before this one.
Yeah, and
So
they
this is the
just
fourth.
they've been surrounded. They didn't do nothing. So, fourth time is the charm.
So what is this?
Do you
So-
think at this point the U.S. is just trying to give us a fireworks show?
No.
But what is
And
the
then they
point of these
shot the
balloons?
balloon,
Like,
and they didn't even hit the direct
No,
the
like,
balloon. They hit the
thi-
bottom of the balloon.
This
It's like,
this
what
this
the-
this time was actually because it caught the attention of the public.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh yeah, the public's like video recording.
yeah.
Like, what the hell
recording
is this?
what is that
We're
and
age of
so-
internet.
UFO. You know,
age of internet, everybody caught it, so now they had to come clean and say what's going on. But I think if something happened and somebody got sick, if there was something in it, like, they would not hear the end of it, and they cannot afford to lose an election. So I think with midterm being the way it is, the political situation, I think that was the thing. But going back to the subject, so what I had is, talking about the sports, this and that, equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. Like right now in the sports, we see a lot of controversial stuff that's happening. Some people are coming in and saying, you're not paying us enough and this and that. To me, it's like, what should be given? Equality of opportunity or equality the outcome?
Equality of opportunity. Because if we do equality of outcome, it's like, if I'm not wrong, like socialist style, right? Like, regardless of what you're doing, you're getting the same thing as the person who put 10 hours of work versus 8 hours of work. Is that what you're trying to say?
But
well, yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
I
However,
think.
a lot of the fighters are saying, well, you're not paying us,
I
this
agree.
and that.
They
Go
don't
box. That's the way I look at it. Go box.
Now,
No.
You want to make the money? Go box.
No.
Go be a boxer. If you think you can make it and make that kind of money.
now to take this into more, into broader spectrum of sports, because sports is not just men, right? Like, there's also women. So now you had the national team, United States national team of women's soccer team come out and say, we're not getting paid as much as the guys are, even though, I think this is what happened. The
Nigga,
soccer,
please.
the world championship, the world
Who
championship.
watches that shit?
So
That's the way I look at it.
yeah,
I was like,
I don't mean
okay,
I don't
but
mean to say it in an
don't
asshole way,
agree.
but not as many people watch it. Not as many people.
Jay.
It doesn't make as much money.
Jay,
but
I mean, I know, like I have a lot of friends out there,
Yeah.
a lot of friends. Jay is perhaps like one of the most like bright people out there, like friend of mine, that he knows a little bit about everything, a little bit about everything, a little bit. I don't need more than that.
yeah.
It's like I saw a podcast the other day. It's like yeah, I got a couple of tickets for you. Like like I think it was like I got like $1,000 for you. You just have to name one single player of WNBA. People's like,
Yeah. So
I could do a Brittany Griner just out because of the host.
like literally,
so
like
just to put this into perspective, look, the soccer world championship for men brings in $6 billion, right? And I think the payout,
the what
the soccer championship,
U.S.
$6 billion.
women?
U.S.
No, men's.
U.S.
$6 billion. Yes.
USA.
U.S. dollars.
No, I'm saying USA soccer
Only?
team.
Listen to what I'm saying. Soccer World
World
Championship
World
brings
Championship.
in $6 billion. The
Okay.
payout to the soccer players is
Oh, it's
7%.
It's insane.
It's 7%. Now, I think women's soccer brings in something around 400 million or something like that, and their payout is at like 20 or 30%.
What are they complaining about?
So they're saying that we're not. So they're saying we're not getting the same amount of pay, even though we put in the same amount of time. This and that. So this is where that whole thing comes in: equality of opportunity versus equality
let me
of
tell
the
you
outcome.
this.
Well, I
It
guess-
doesn't matter. I put 8 hours a day into going and putting in a windows at somebody's house. But another person goes into 8 hours a day into designing the fucking skyscrapers in New York. It's not the same.
No.
It's not the same. Your outcome doesn't provide the same.
But
Your work doesn't provide the same outcome. Just because you're doing 8 hours a day and maybe you're putting in as much effort as the other person, your outcome is not the same. You're not
But-
making as much money.
Yeah,
It's
it all
just
depends
simple
on
as
the
that.
industry. I'm not sure what the boxing, let's say, compared to UFC, what the money value is, what the industry makes. It's what they make, right? They cannot give you more money than what they
And
make.
who are you to be
who's
complaining?
the top, like, paid athlete in like female athlete in the UFC?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
No
female
idea.
athlete ever or right now? I don't
Like
know
right-
about right
right now.
now. Ever will be
Ronda
Ronda.
Rousey.
Ronda.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
even at one point she was
What
getting paid
about
more than all the men.
Wait, what about the
And now she's
The-
gonna go
the
do a
Brazilian one.
WWE.
the Brazilian?
Amanda Nunes?
Yeah, she don't make
No,
more
no,
than
no.
Ronda.
She made no. She doesn't. She didn't make more than Ronda. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, but like again, and there's a lot of like stereotypes and shit. But like Amanda Nunes, great champion, and everything,
Double champ.
double champ. But again, like
Wait,
But- but-
the
but-
division she's double champion though. The second one has absolutely nobody.
Yeah, but yeah.
So
But the thing is that that like, I mean, I don't want to take it from her, but
No.
literally, like she's a man, you know, like
built.
built manly. It was like nobody like for her, you know, in that category, you know that.
Amanda Nunes too.
but still, you know,
Right?
Yeah, Amanda
even-
Nunes. I'm talking about Amanda Nunes.
Amanda Nunes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought you
yeah.
talking about
even
Ronda.
though
Okay.
United States
No,
soccer
Ronda
team,
is you know.
even though United States soccer team wins more than the men's soccer team, and I get that. However, the problem is it's not bringing in money.
Yeah.
It's not bringing in money. So if it's not bringing in money, they're not getting paid. In overall, if you look at it percentage-wise, they're actually making more than men are, which means they're taking a bigger cut of the total
Correct.
percentage of money brought in.
Yes.
So whether they're winning or not, they cannot put people into the seats.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. And, you know, take WNBA. WNBA is consistently in WNBA is consistently in the negative, right? The NBA has to kind of push it to get the WNBA because, again, they're not putting people into the seats. Now, I don't want to take it away from all these women that go into the sport, dedicate their life into this, and then they continue to compete to get to the level that they are, right? Which is they're most likely are better than 70% of the men out there. I don't know. I don't know what the statistics on that is. However, there have been some, you know, exhibition games where 15-year-old boys in an Australian soccer team played
demolished.
against the national Australian
I think you
team
can
and
kind of.
won.
I think a good way to put it is probably not as simple as this, but men are more physical. We have more physical attributes.
bigger bone density.
So by that, we are more entertaining when it comes to these things like you're expressing your athleticism, right?
Yeah, there was a time they wanted to lower the ring. They wanted to lower the baskets because so women can dunk, so that would bring in more viewers. But fundamentally, it would change the sport.
And then how often do you see the women in the UFC actually knock each other out?
You don't.
No, but they do come out of there with like the biggest hematomas you've ever seen because they're not. Sadly, they're not like really.
Built
Their
for it,
body
yeah.
is not built for that. You know, they bruise easily. Their bones break easier than ours do.
Yeah.
So that's why
They're
this
not
is
as entertaining. I mean, sorry. Actually, I'll take it back on the majority because the UFC girls fight are some of the most entertaining fights
But you
ever
know,
see.
I'm gonna tell you one thing about soccer though. One thing I prefer from women's soccer over men's soccer is you don't touch them and they falling crying. You don't have that in the women's
The
soccer.
girls soccer, they be
No,
elbow-
you
they
don't.
can elbow each other in the
Dude,
face.
you
and
see
they
them
keep
bleeding
running.
and like blood gushing, and they're going. You touch like Ronaldo or you touch Neymar. Neymar's rolling half a field.
Neymar's
bro.
well known for that, you know.
And he's like, come on.
so the
I-
Now, my favorite women's sport is women's volleyball. I love it, you know.
Yeah,
beach
you're right.
volleyball or
You're right.
just volleyball.
No,
in
the
general?
regular volleyball
You
in
can be on the
general.
court, it's fine. As long as
Can
it's got
you
the shorts.
look up what's the industry between boxing and UFC in terms of the money industry?
Bro, boxing's got it.
I
My
know, but I'm
favorite
just
women's
curious.
sport, you know what it is?
Comparison, like the ratio.
Yeah, the ratio. What's the difference?
Okay, so
You know what my favorite women's
our
sport
boy
is?
Alex just said that there's a bunch of like
Yeah,
WNBA stars that actually dunk.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, but I bet
They
if
do,
you
but not
compare,
all of them.
No,
I bet
no.
if you
Men,
compare
all
the
of them
percent,
dunk.
handful. I mean, I don't know the numbers.
All
but
men
and
dunk.
not
no, not all of them.
maybe 2-3 out
You
of
telling
the
me
team.
not all basketball
No,
players
Hey,
can dunk?
you ever seen a woman basketball player do the windmill and dunk? No.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Miggy?
Or between the legs or
Now,
alley oop?
I do
No.
believe. Wait, but you have to. You also have to say that women are now getting the chance to, fit that narrative, right? For as long as we can remember, it's always been the men's sports, and it wasn't until very recently, if you want to really look at it,
about 30 years
that they
or
were
so.
allowed to even compete.
Yeah.
So you also have to look at that they're just behind in the sense that they started so much longer. Now is when they're getting the chance.
Which I'm saying they have the equality of opportunity,
Yeah,
but they cannot
that-
expect equality over outcome.
You're
what I mean?
gonna have to look at it in the sense like they've been around. Like men's sports has been around so much longer. They're more established. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true, 100%.
Women's boxing is actually really good. Women's boxing.
Yeah, but see, there was a
No, it's. I'm saying it's.
Like,
it's
in
I
There
mean,
was-
I
there was
believe
an
you, but
exhibition
it's not on my
fight.
interest.
There was an
Yeah.
exhibition fight. There was this lady couple of years, 10 or 20 years back. She was a kickboxer, undefeated 40-0 or something like that. Nobody could defeat this lady in a ring. So what they did, they took an amateur kickboxer man and put her in a ring, and the guy ended up just like mopping the floor with her. Same thing happened with Serena Williams. She played the 250th tennis player in the world, and the guy came off being hungover the day before, ended up like winning the whole thing
against Serena Williams.
Yep, he ended up winning. Look up, you'll see. But the thing is, it's just the amount of athleticism. I don't want to say it's not the level of athleticism is not the same. They got their own thing going for themselves, which is great, and men got their own thing going for themselves. But you cannot compare those two things together and say, well, the payouts have to be exactly the same.
No, because you got to look at the industry, how much the industry makes for that particular division. I mean, I can't pay you more than I make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's where the equality.
That's what we're trying to get at, right? They already make a higher percentage.
Yes.
Compared to the male players,
because
but their industry is just so much smaller.
Correct.
What do you want them to do?
Yeah,
pull this money out of their ass?
No, it doesn't work.
They only make so much.
Yeah, and their whole thing was, well, we win a lot. This whole thing started with women's soccer team. They're like, we'll win so much, we should get more money. Okay, but great, but what? You're not bringing people in.
So you know where the problem lies? You know, the big problem is that, I mean, women, they have a lot of potential, like, you know, on like going big and making a lot of money. But the first group that actually does not support them is this women.
Yeah.
Women, they don't support.
They don't
support
to
them.
put each other down.
Because a lot of women don't like sports, if you look at it, right?
So, you're
Does
right.
your wife
this was in 1998.
Does your wife like sports?
Serena was barely a grown woman when this happened.
This is still Serena Williams.
She was, but she wasn't prime Serena Williams.
98.
I mean, she was winning back then. No,
no, at that point, you know, I mean, I grew up with tennis, you know, and I really love, like, you know, like all these, like, you know, like big tennis players back in the days. When it started, Venus was the start of it. Venus was the all-star. She was the greatest, and Serena was like left on the side. So Serena was like, you know, and then Serena became this like beautiful butterfly, like in the sports, like winning everything, and like being the GOAT of the sport.
Now
by far.
Yeah, and what's his name is the GOAT. I just saw his stats. Djokovic,
yeah.
Man, he's the GOAT. He passed Nadal.
He's the sport, but he's the GOAT. I'm sorry, but again, when you compare it, I mean, the problem with Djokovic is that if you compare with Federer or Nadal, he was always like the third guy. There, never got the recognition that he deserved.
Correct.
Because you had back then, you had Andre Agassi.
You had the Pete Sampras. You have Andre Agassi.
And Pete Sampras and Agassi were going at it, man.
Yeah.
Every championship, it was them two.
But it's the same thing, you know. Sampras was the GOAT of all, like everything, you know. But when it comes to the clay, when it comes to playing in the Roland Garros, you know, Agassi was the master of the clay. Same thing with Nadal and Federer. Nadal was the master of clay, like playing in the Roland Garros, the French tournament, versus Wimbledon, which is obviously the most renowned, you know, tournament in the world.
But that's on grass,
you know, and that's where, you know, Pete Sampras and Federer were the greatest, you know. So they ended up like being the greatest of all time.
Let me ask you one question to go back on your question. You said that there's a lot of women supporters to support this women's sport, which is very true. Do you think it's because of men like action prefer more action or sports than women? That's why there is no support behind it?
I don't think it's just interesting. Like, there's some things that guys watch, you know.
Because like we like the boxing, fighting, the bloodbath, or racing, right? The adrenaline junkies, we are.
But you have that. And
I mean, the racing. I watch racing and the men, and then they say, oh, support the women racing. I like to see it. But they don't even show it on the TV. How do you want me to watch it to support
what they did with racing? What was her name in the NASCAR?
But I challenge you. I challenge you.
And then she was.
I challenge you. Like, we have a lot of like girls on our circle, like your wife, my wife. You know, like a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Ask any of these girls about, you know, like, please,
sport, boxing, and no, they don't.
Please name one of, like, you know, one of the greatest, you know, whatever tennis player right now, female tennis player, or boxing,
no chance.
or MMA,
No
or
chance.
they don't know.
I mean,
They just don't know.
listen. She used to. My wife used to spar, right? Box, and she loved boxing. And when I watch boxing, again, you're watching boxing. You used to spar. Like, you not interested to see? She doesn't like it.
So the thing is, I don't think. See, here's the thing. Also racing, they did, what's her name? Danica Patrick's. She was first in Indy, right, cars, and then she went to NASCAR. In Indy, she didn't do that well.
She had support.
She had support. She didn't do that well, and then she went into NASCAR, which pretty much they're like, all right, bro, like you can't drive.
Yeah.
In comparison
I mean,
to
she
these
could
guys,
drive. She can drive from better than probably a lot of men on the world.
100%, but she couldn't drive at that level.
At that level, I agree.
And this maybe has to do something maybe with the reaction time. I don't know if they're
You know what it is? I'm gonna tell you what it is. I think I know what it is. I figured this out. We don't care about what could happen. They are more conservative in terms of what can happen. You know what I mean? So they're not always at the limit. That's what I think. They're not always at the limit. They're more cautious of how they drive. I mean, you see some of these guys drive like maniacs because they don't care. Oh, I might, turn 5 miles an hour faster and hit the wall and die.
But
They don't care.
It's gonna be faster.
He's gonna try.
No,
he will try, bro.
I don't think that's the case. When you make it to that level, you're out there to demonstrate that you can do it. But the thing was, they were pushing this young lady to into the car into the racing because she was a female and she was putting out numbers, right, in the amateur. So they pushed her and then nothing came out of it. Then pushed her into NASCAR, nothing came out of it.
But I have an argument.
I think
for
if
what
she
you said.
won, a lot of things, she would have had more sponsor, and then maybe she would have been, up there.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching racing since I was a kid, and I had to see there was one rally, I think, back in the day. Eddie's dad will know her name. She was, she won so many championships. I think maybe she was from Spain, and she was ruthless, bro. She won everything, but it's like one in a million, right?
I agree with you a little bit that women are a little more conserved and calculated, especially when it on the majority. Because you look at two race car drivers that are rally, rest in peace, Ken Block, and Travis Pastrana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're friends, but their driving style is completely different.
Yes.
Ken is a fucking
maniac.
No. Ken was a calculator.
Yeah, it was calculated.
He was a motherfucking calculator.
Yeah.
So precise. Travis was like he said.
Reckless,
It's like he
bro.
said.
But fast.
Motherfucker's just like, well, we're gonna try 5 feet more this time. And
Yeah,
just fuck
bro.
it. Like
YOLO.
Yeah, he just fucking goes.
But
for
that's
it.
what puts out, like, just to talk about Verstappen, F1, right?
Crazy.
That's what
motherfucker.
makes the best drivers, like Schumacher. Bro, Schumacher was on the limit every lap.
But I think that there's two kinds. Because
Or Senna.
Ken is a goat. Ken is a goat.
Yeah, for sure.
Ken is a goat.
Yeah. But I think, in my perspective, I think women are more conservative. Therefore, they don't
On the
survive in
majority.
racing.
Well, not only that.
There's
even
not a lot of
even
men
if they're
like Ken
conservative,
That
even
drive
if,
like that.
No,
even if they're conservative,
And make it to that level.
even if they're conservative, the bottom line is they're not bringing in the numbers. If they're not bringing in numbers, the money's
but
not coming. in.
Like I said, I think that's a lot of factors to that. They haven't been as established as long.
Yeah.
They're not as
Sponsorship
entertaining
and
because they're
things
not as athletic. Naturally athletic.
Well, they're more athletic
Okay,
than
so
a lot of guys, but they're not
compared
at
to
that level. Yeah.
compared to the top
a
guys.
So
This guy-
what's the number one sports that actually you see women excel in?
I'm not
let's
sure.
look that
United
up.
States soccer. That's it.
No, I'm not.
No,
That's it.
I gotta say tennis. I gotta say
Tennis?
tennis. Like tennis is, I think this is the number one. You know,
Because
like that.
volleyball doesn't really pay much.
That's not. I mean, yeah, tennis for sure. I
Tennis.
think Serena.
Serena and what's the other? The
right
Russian.
now, probably MMA is going to
well,
be the next thing that's coming.
Sharapova.
First, you have soccer. This is the most followed women's sport, not necessarily money wise.
Okay.
First is soccer.
Well, but
followed
that-
by badminton.
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 What?
Yeah, I mean, if you
Okay,
think about
Then
that's super
basketball.
popular in Asia.
Then tennis.
Okay, just take China out of the equation and all that. You know,
'Cause
That's
that's
it.
Asia.
We
Yeah.
don't
yeah.
want
That's
Chinese,
that's Asia,
we
like
don't
by
want
far.
Chinese balloons here.
And again, it's the same thing, like soccer is the number one seen sport all over the world.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me
We
ask
know
you
that's the
this.
number one sport in the world.
Let me ask you
So
this.
so like yeah, it makes sense, like okay, more women on that side.
Tennis,
But again,
women make the most.
There
Make
you
the most money. Tennis. You were right.
there you go.
But let me not sound
My guy.
too like.
So
Nuts.
my question is like, when are you gonna put like Lynette to play tennis? I want to put Patricia.
Table tennis competition.
We need to monetize.
But let me ask you this. I mean, in Europe, right? There's a lot of soccer clubs, right?
Yeah.
Man, is there women clubs?
Yes, obviously.
I've never really.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
yes,
obviously.
Yes.
Well, no,
Absolutely.
I
I
think
never
they're.
really paid attention to that.
They-
Like,
they're-
No,
I
because we
don't-
don't pay attention to women's sports because almost nobody does.
Now I don't know if there are teams per se, but these
Yes,
women
they
are
have-
training for world championships.
Yes,
like
they
they
have-
are training for this.
They have clubs
Well, they have
just
the
like they
US,
have
yeah,
Barcelona,
women-
Manchester United.
They
They have
do?
women's clubs. Yes.
Oh, I'm sound ignorant because I've never really. yeah.
No, because if you think about it, what is probably one of the number one sports? What is probably number one sports, female sports in United States? Let's talk about United States.
Probably
It's,
soccer.
it's soccer.
It's
yeah.
soccer
Soccer.
and
Tennis.
softball.
It's
Soccer and softball.
Yeah, correct.
As an
Soccer
American,
and
probably
softball.
softball.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Really?
bro.
Tennis, bro.
So
Still
every
might be tennis above
Yeah,
softball.
I think
Yeah,
I think
no.
tennis
Let's look it up
be-
for the
because of
Americans.
Serena
yeah, I
and
think
everything.
it's the amount of
Softball doesn't
amount of
get
women that
paid,
play the
bro.
game. I think it's soccer and softball.
Softball don't get paid crap.
Nothing.
Pennies, bro.
Nothing.
Now with the
But again, you see like a lot of like females on the track and field side as well, like being
Yes, you do.
big. The women's gymnastics team is great, but how?
United States gymnastics team.
But
yeah.
but again, like how like
Swimming,
like if you're
gymnastics,
monetizing that, like how much money can you make out of that? It's
You're
just
not.
like sponsorship
sponsors,
and it's
yes.
every time like
What's the
like close to the Olympics.
what's
know?
the little one that she's a gymnast.
Yeah, like the
Soccer, basketball,
the
and
African
then softball.
American.
Yeah,
Like,
Soccer, basketball, and
yeah.
softball.
What's her name?
what's
I don't
the
remember.
African American?
So
like,
soccer still
Gymnast.
leads.
She's like
Huh?
4'5".
Simone Biles.
I mean, I think her net worth is pretty high. Net worth is pretty high,
But it's
it's
not.
all due with sponsors.
I was
It
about to
has
say that's
nothing
because of her
really to
name.
do-
Because
yes.
nobody here knows. I bet I don't even know a male gymnast name, but I know who that is.
Yeah.
But because she got so famous during that time.
hmm But see, growing up in former Soviet Union, back then you kind of knew like there were these female gymnasts that are good,
Or,
and then these
or
male gymnasts were good,
skaters or
or the
whatever.
skaters were good. You kind of knew the names. I think in back then in that part, that was like Soviet Union's prerogative to win against the Western world. So they're promoting their own gymnasts and skaters and things like that, and this was big. But this never really was a thing like in the United States. In the United States, every day we're talking about football. Every day we're
Yes.
talking about
Oh,
basketball.
football
Every
is-
day we're talking about baseball. Baseball has 154 games or something like that in a season. 164 games in a season.
But
I mean,
again,
that's a game pretty much every other day.
But again, that was like one of my like biggest questions. When it comes to, because I've always been on the business side and marketing. Like why is soccer the number one like watch and played sport in the world? And when it comes to soccer in the U.S., soccer is nothing. I mean, it's a big thing, but compared to the world, it's nothing. So my first, from the marketing standpoint, like point of view, it's the same thing. The problem with soccer, it's like you got 2 straight 45-minute times, no breaks, no anything. So no potential for commercials. Like for you to monetize that sport was actually hard.
Makes sense.
So that's when you see like a football, like with a halftime show
Yes.
and all the breaks and all
Breaks,
that and all this and
Dorito
baseball has like a
commercial.
2 million like breaks. Every time they switch a pitcher.
Super Bowl
or,
commercials
or
like the biggest thing.
so
yeah, that makes sense because soccer doesn't have that.
so US has
During
always
halftime only.
US has always
15
been
minutes.
monetizing sports like since the the
sense.
inception.
Because they don't see
Well-
money in it, right?
Well, it's not that they don't see money. Here's the thing: people vote with their wallet. People vote with their wallets always. So if the United States decided to watch soccer, and soccer was a big thing, even if they didn't have these commercial breaks, they would still push it Just United States soccer is not very popular. It's just not, because we have our football, right, which technically is really not football. The soccer is the actual football throughout the world. So when we say football, immediately everyone thinks about NFL, right? Nobody thinks about the actual football.
Yeah. And that's the biggest sport in the U.S.
And that is the biggest sport in the As a matter of fact, they call it the World Championship because no one else in the world plays it. Same thing with baseball. Baseball has the World Championship because technically they're not that many baseball teams out
Europe,
there, you know?
Right? Baseball?
They play all around the world. You're going to see that.
Japanese play it. Dominicans play it.
You're going to see it in the World Baseball Classic now, you know? Which is like World Baseball Classic.
But
you
like,
know?
you tell me that France, Germany has a baseball team?
I mean, they all have, you know, but you need to qualify, like, to get to the World Baseball
Okay.
Classic, you know? And then you see, like, the Netherlands has, like, a great team. Japan, Israel, like, believe it or not, you know, they have, like, big teams.
You can just look at it. See who are the players in baseball. A lot of Dominican guys, which means they're coming from Dominican Republic. That means baseball is huge in Dominican Republic.
It is.
Japanese
Cuba,
guys, baseball is huge in Japan.
Right.
You
Yeah,
kinda can
Cuba,
see-
Mexico,
you
you
can
know.
kind of see what countries actually play that, right? Like, otherwise you
Venezuela.
wouldn't have these players come in and play within the baseball, right? Like, you don't see that many German and players from Netherlands or from any other country, right? So, and again, so should now Germany go and complain that, you know, they're not getting a bigger cut of payout for their baseball team where they don't really have a baseball team, or it's not a big deal, you know? I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22 on this, you know? Like, yes, you are putting
I believe
in the time
that athletes are overpaid regardless. So,
but that's the we're venturing in a different territory on this one. This has to do something
What's
completely with
interesting
write-offs and
thing, talking about like different sports in different countries. So they bring it now slowly F1. So now they have 3 tracks in the US, and they bring in that, and they notice that hey, F1, I mean USA likes racing, even though there's no US drivers. Maybe there is one that's gonna start next year. I'm not sure if he's American, but they're bringing out. They have 3 tracks, and they're talking about adding more because do you know how much Miami tickets were? Miami racetrack was last year here.
Yeah.
30 grand for some of the tickets, bro. $30,000. People were paying, bro.
That's huge.
I
man.
mean,
30
I don't think you
grand?
can look at
Miami's different
another
than
sport
But
and say
30,000?
that the amount of money put into F1, you can't compare. You can't compare.
Billions.
And plus
bro,
Miami-
You cannot compare.
Yeah.
Plus, Miami is a
billions,
super diverse city, and a lot of the Miami's from
Now-
South America, from Europe. You
Yeah.
know, that's a little bit different.
And now it's not as bad because they cut the thing from Remember, it was 450 before, and now it's only 250. Right, the budget for the cars.
250 million.
Oh, not even. The budget, it was like 150, and now it's like 135.
But wasn't it 450 like 2
No.
years ago?
Yeah, but it's 135 now this year.
I thought it was 250.
No, 150 last year, and this 135 now.
So I mean I understand what
35
F1
now.
is doing, but I understand if F1 was one of these F2 or F3 or FE.
You know why they?
Why the fuck are they limiting the fastest
tell-
fucking cars?
I'm gonna tell you why.
I'm sorry. I know why. I know. Why.
I'm
I know.
gonna tell you right, because let's say Mercedes,
I
right?
get it.
Ferrari,
Yeah, I know,
Mercedes.
I know.
You have $1 billion, right? I'm Alfa Romeo. I only have 200 million. Guess what? I'm never winning, bro.
No.
Because you can invest $1 billion and you make your car so fast that I'm never gonna
see.
win.
I remember.
So they're trying
To level the playing
But
field.
what I didn't like when they did it, so they started in 2021 implementing this idea, right? But they said in 2021,
That's the same thing with the Yankees versus like any other like baseball team
but
like in
check
the league.
this out, what they said, which blew my mind. So 2021, they came out, they said, okay, so we're going to implement this capital cost, like this is how much you can spend. If you go over like 3%, it's allowed. If you go over 5, you're going to get, you could be disqualified, blah, 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 blah.
Points taken away.
But in 2021, they said, you can start developing your car for the next 5 years. You can dump as much money as you want in it to develop the car. But then 2022, you're only allowed to spend 150. So if I'm Ferrari and Mercedes, guess what? I'm dumping $3 billion, developing my car for the next 5 years. I'm still going to be faster. So what did you do? Nothing.
They did it one step
Nothing,
forward
bro.
for 1 year, two
Bro,
steps back the next year.
Nothing, bro. For the last 10 years I've been watching, it's Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull. Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull. I mean, For 7 years, it was Mercedes. You turn on F1, who's
It
going to
was
win?
Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton.
And before that was Ferrari.
Yeah.
No, forget it. It was Red Bull. Red Bull won 4 years. Ferrari hasn't won it. Forget it. I give up on Ferrari.
Yeah, but when Michael Schumacher was driving,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
Ferrari.
Well,
yes.
that's back then. That's a
Back
long time
then.
ago.
This is a long time ago. Michael Schumacher, Ferrari had a different mentality
I don't think
back
Michael
then.
has driven since like 2003, right? Last 2004. Was the last
Uh,
time Michael drove?
I
Like
don't
long
remember the
time
years.
ago.
Long time ago. But yeah, I don't know. They have different mentality. Nowadays, they're like, Ferrari, if it doesn't work out, they just start firing people. And it's like,
So I remember when my
You
dad
know.
was explaining to me, I asked him, you know, why does Lewis, you always see Lewis, like this shit is not entertaining anymore, you know? You see the other guys below him battling for spots, but who's at the front? Lewis. And he explained to me, you know, they have so much more money.
yes,
It doesn't matter that Sebastian Vettel's a better driver.
correct.
He doesn't have a
Which
faster
he
car.
was.
Yeah,
He is a better
he is
driver.
4-time world champion. The
I
thing
saw
is,
I saw
luck.
Donut do a
Luck.
video. I
Luck,
saw
bro.
Donut do a video the other day about arguing about how he's better than Michael. That he
Michael
could-
Schumacher?
that he
Who?
could- that- yeah, they were-
Vettel?
yes.
No.
Bruh.
No.
They
It's
were
just
arguing.
like LeBron is
No,
better
no.
than
They were
Michael
arguing.
Jordan, man. Come on.
They
No.
were arguing that.
You can
well,
argue the point of Senna and Schumacher maybe, but not Vettel. Vettel is great. I mean, but Schumacher, come on, man, 7-time world champion.
Anyway, that was them arguing about that. I don't believe that. But the amount of money that some of these teams have compared to, like you said,
Yes.
Alfa Romeo
Yes.
or even McLaren that doesn't put that much, and all these other teams like compared to Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull.
That's why I prefer sometimes watch IndyCar. You know why? I'm going to explain you. You have this much money to spend. The aero will be the same. Okay, you can do little tweaks, maybe the wing this
The
way.
tuning or whatever, yeah.
Engine, 2 different engines, Chevy, Honda. This much power you can make only maximum. And we're going to give you this horsepower. 1,000 horsepower, here's 1,000 horsepower. Chevy, there's 1,000 horsepower. Honda is 1,000 horsepower. And it's all strategy, driver, how you consume your fuel and tires.
We should go to
And every race is different.
we
You
should go
don't
to,
know
you
who's
know,
going to win.
Polk County, Daytona.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
like to
Daytona.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and that's what I was
Daytona.
gonna
Oh,
say.
Indianapolis 500 would be
That would be
nice.
nice. That would like
Like,
that
this is
one.
what I was gonna say. Actually, with F1 coming to United States, they're gonna have to battle with NASCAR. Because I don't think any. I don't.
No.
you
They're
got-
nowhere near the level, bro. NASCAR,
I
they
agree.
just now started implementing right turn.
Yeah, but again,
No,
honestly,
Just started implementing that
I
shit.
agree.
I
but
see- I
Mid
see-
America loves their NASCAR.
yeah,
Yes,
all
I
the
know.
It's a
rednecks.
pastime
That's
activity.
a redneck
say that,
activity,
bro.
like
Say
100%.
that, bro.
You know,
It's a pastime activity. Pulling up your little camper in there, drinking with your buddies. It's a pastime activity.
Yeah,
That's
In
a-
Formula One. You can't.
that's
do
a
that.
let's go Brandon situation. That's all redneck.
Let's-
That's all Donald Trump.
Wait, Karen
Yeah.
situation?
Karen.
Yeah, so I think at Formula One is gonna have his job cut out for themselves to actually, because IndyCar tried to do that, and IndyCar has been here for a while, and they still cannot take
Yeah,
over.
but IndyCar is still just baby Formula One.
It is.
Bro, I
although
love
IndyCar,
Yeah.
although IndyCar, I think their engines are different. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
the
not
car is
same
completely
car.
different. No. Oh, the cars are completely
same.
different.
Just
Like-
one engine and twin turbo. That's all you got. You know, go race.
Yeah, but I think they're gonna have their
what do you
job cut
think
out
of-
for themselves.
What if you think if they did this? We gotta cut it real quick, but it's my last question. For you that you know racing, what if they did F1 this way? They say, I mean, it would kind of defeat the whole purpose of the teams of,
Yeah.
of Mercedes and Ferrari. But what if they really focus on who's the better driver, and they said, all right, we're gonna get the best engineers in the world and have everybody drive the same car. But all these cars, every single one is the same, but they're the peak of what a car could be. Don't you think that would be so much more entertaining?
So I have an opinion.
Well, that's
So-
IndyCar. You're talking about IndyCar.
So-
That's what Indy does.
No. Indy still has their own teams in the sense of like they can tune the cars how they want. They have a very strict
You're
guideline.
talking about leave it to the driver.
But it's
Leave it
very
straight to the
close. I
driver.
mean, you probably have a 5 to 10% margin of differences, which is nothing, right? It can in one turn, a lot of things can change. You're like, oh, this guy's winning, and 2 laps left, he's losing. You know,
Last
because
place.
oh, he changed a tire and something happened. Safety car came out. Oh, he changed the tire too late, and now he's in the back, right? Indy. But 2 things. I think F1. I think maybe one year or every other year should make equal cars, head to head, who's the better driver.
Yeah.
I
right.
agree. Yeah.
And put it all to the test. But also F1 implemented so many new technologies that is used around the world in cars. Dude, F1 engine is like 70% or some ridiculous number fuel efficient. Our cars are 20% fuel efficient. So everything else goes out of the tailpipe and 20% you use to move, right? 70%.
But see,
And
the
they're
thing
trying
is,
to implement this,
they
right?
wa-
Now they're doing, in 2025, they're doing zero emission F1. Zero. Using gas or whatever they're going to use, right? Some sort of fuel. The fuel they're going to use. Zero emissions. And guess what? That industry might come back to the cars, the industry,
Well,
right?
I don't think that's gonna ever happen because think about
Oh,
it.
it will. It will. They
well,
have to, or they can race.
Well, no, yeah, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like putting the same exact car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they
never
know.
gonna
That's
happen.
never
Why?
gonna
Because
No.
Mercedes
No.
wants to show that they have.
Correct.
Because this racing is in general reflects the actual brand
But
Mercedes and
but what
Ferrari.
I
and-
think
Correct.
it would be nice is if they started a whole new thing. Because that would never
Yes.
work. That
but then
idea would never
companies would
work
not
if
invest
you
money.
implicated F1. No, this would have to be a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
They would never
Like
even.
FE.
Who would invest
How
money?
does
then?
FE work?
I don't like it.
If they cannot show off their car, who would? If they cannot show off their car, they wouldn't invest in it.
So
You know what I'm saying?
Formula,
They have to show off their brand. Our brand is the best. We're winning all these championships. Mercedes #1 for several years. Why? Because Mercedes is better than Ferrari. That's all there is to it. It's not.
and then you got
no
the
one cares
sponsorship
about the driver.
who wins, because like if Mercedes win #1 and Ferrari #2, they're gonna get 15 or 20 million dollars more at the end of the
That's
championship. Or
FE.
50 million, I think. I forget what the
That
numbers are. Mercedes getting 50 million more than Ferrari now because they won the championship, and all it's good
But
for
see,
Mercedes.
Yes, no, it looks good on a Mercedes, and I get it. But the bottom line is these companies like Mercedes, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and all of the Renault, the McLaren, these companies been there through multitude of drivers. Who's been like the one thing that's been consistent is the car companies.
Yep.
Drivers come and go.
Yep.
Bottom line is it's not about the driver, it's about the
No,
car.
it's about
the
the money
sport
and
is
the
about the
car.
car and who pays the
Yes.
bills, who keeps the lights
I mean,
on.
you could have
Same thing with electric cars. You're gonna have electric cars, and someone is gonna come in and say, you know what, we're gonna produce better electric cars, and here's our proof that we have better electric cars. You're gonna have the same thing.
Same thing, like you have all these great drivers that come in and never win anything because they're in a shittier team.
On a
Yeah.
shitty team, yeah.
Luck too, right?
And again, it all, I mean, should come down to like, again, driving the same vehicle.
Yes, that would
Let's
be
put them all
great.
like all together.
I would watch
based
that.
on
That would be
based on skills. Even if it's a golf cart, I don't care. You know.
the goal. Yeah,
Golf cart.
Oh yeah.
At least everybody's go kart is the same.
And it's
right?
like it's like a Mario Kart
kickball,
like situation, Like even if it's like that, but
Yes,
that's
put
the
the
that's the
goat.
only way
Yes.
that you could actually compare apples
Say,
to
okay,
apples.
he's the
you
goat.
know?
Because it's like
Who
this.
is- who is the
it's
best
kind of like
driver?
this with racing. I know I'm saying a little extreme, and it's gonna be the last thing. It's like if before every time Gordon Ryan went to grapple, because he's got the money, he's got all the sponsorship. Right before he grapples, he goes with adrenaline. Whoop. That's an unfair advantage, isn't it? Just like Mercedes and Mercedes versus Haas. Haas does not have 200 to
No.
400 million like Mercedes does. To just go
1
whoop.
billion.
Yeah, 1 billion. Like now they're not having a freaking that no cap on designing is the dumbest shit I heard.
I know it's
Dumbest shit I heard. F1 fix that shit.
But this year, the past year, they made it better. Where the FIA, which is the Formula Federation, blah blah blah, came in and made the cars in a specific way, because you know what they were doing? They were making their cars so the colder air you get, the more downforce you have, because hot air rises, right?
Yeah.
So the colder air you got. So if you up front, you got cold air, you got the best downforce, but then you're dumping hot air from all the engine and stuff to
Of
the guy
course.
behind you. He can't follow you close because he's getting hot air. So if he's trying to follow you close, he loses downforce, and he can't. So they implemented last year, which was really good, improved the racing. So they were dumping the air up. Okay, instead of they were dumping towards the other car, they were dumping up the air,
Well, that
which
was a
improved
regulation.
the racing. They could follow closer, and it was more entertaining. It was more passing, more thing.
That's
so
cool. That's
at
weird how,
least
like,
they implemented that, which improved. I got tired of watching. It's like you watch 70 laps, the guy's following him, but he can't pass him because He loses
Dump him out
downforce.
there, yeah.
I mean, wait. The one thing that we need to recognize, and hopefully, like a good argument for you guys to start your closing chapter here. It's like I really love the passion on which you talk about like F1, like the same as myself. Every time I joking about jiu-jitsu and Gordon Ryan's fight, and which by the way, Gordon Ryan is gonna be fighting like Felipe Pena on the 25th. So that's a must see, like obviously
That's gonna be interesting because he's in a camp with Galvao and what's his name?
Yo, we should start doing
which Galbao and
fighter
Craig
commentary.
Jones and Kenan
Fighter
Duarte.
commentary.
So
That'd be nice.
so obviously, I mean, I really love like the passion that everybody puts on like each
Yeah,
specific
something
sport,
they
you
like.
know?
Yeah.
Something they like. So even again, kids, I know this is not a kids podcast, but always
You younglings.
younglings. Always have a true passion, in sports, martial arts, whatever it is. Put your heart into it. And again,
Also,
Jay,
women also.
so
this
thank
is
you
the
guys
way.
for inviting me today. I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
Thank you, brother.
Us.
Hey, thanks for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
Us.
Us.
See y'all later. Y'all have a
Oh,
good
wait,
night.
wait, before we last announcement, guys. So on Thursday we're gonna have another show. We're gonna have another guest, and if we don't have a guest, we haven't decided who's gonna be it. But we're gonna have another panel with some topics for you, and then watch out for Sunday. I think we have a. I
might
think
be
we have a
setting up
surprise.
something-
Yeah,
yeah.
we're baking this cake for you guys, and I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Are you doing a piñata in the sky so they can track the
what-
Mexican country?
no, we're gonna have a super cool. If it all works out, I think it's gonna be a pretty cool show on Sunday, like a little bonus episode. We're gonna try maybe bringing more of these bonus episodes for you if we see this taking
Yeah.
traction and you like it.
Well, you guys have a good night.
Peace.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace out. Thank
Peace
you.
out. Thanks for watching. Hit like.